Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the September Full Council. Just let everybody settle. Right, if I can just ask Scott to run through the preamble.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome to all councillors and any members of the public who are with us here today, and for anybody joining online. Just to highlight that again, it is only the councillors present in this meeting that will be taking decisions. There are a number of officers also present, but they're here to advise the council. I'll refer everyone to the agenda and papers that were published on the council's website on the 17th of September. And for those joining online, you will obviously already be aware that this meeting is being live webcast, and that similarly we're making a recording of the meeting, which will also be published on the council's website. In terms of health and safety, there are no planned fire drills today, but in the event of the fire alarm going off, please can you use the fire exits, which are clearly at the corners of this room, and if you could all then assemble in the car park outside. Again, just to remind all councillors, I know you know the custom and practice, but again, if anybody wishes to speak on an item, again, if you could just raise your hand, and I'm sure the Vice Chair will then take a note of your name, and then the Chair will invite you to speak. Just for the benefit of the public, it would be helpful when you do speak or address the council, again, if you could just introduce who you are. Again, that's just for anybody who's joining online.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Moving on to the agenda item 1, which is apologies for absence. Back to you, Scott.
Thank you, Chair. So the apologies we have received are from Councillor Ujla, Councillor Baker, as in Councillor Jason Baker, Councillor Boyden, Councillor Cavell, Councillor Denton, Councillor Dimmery, Councillor Dingwall, Councillor Fothergill, Councillor Healy, Councillors Hewitson, Hobbs, Keach, Purbrick, Reid, Robbins, Snell, Andy Sully, and finally Councillor Roswijk.
Okay, are there any further apologies? Diego.
Chair, Councillor Lance Duddridge, Councillor Bob Filmer, if I missed that one, and I don't recall if you said Councillor Dawn Denton is joining online.
Yes, we've got Lee, yes.
Thank you. I'm expecting Councillor Govia, but he did say he may be held up, so he may be a little bit late.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
And Councillor Page.
Yes, Claire.
Sorry, did you get apologies for Rob Reid, Councillor Rob Reid?
Yes, we did.
Oh, apologies. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, Bill.
I've been informed that Councillor Rigby is running late. He sends his apologies, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Dave Mansell.
Thank you. Apologies from Councillor Mike Dunk as well, please.
Okay, I think that covers all the hands. Okay, we move on to item 2, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. Is it your wish that I sign them as an accuracy of the full council meeting held on the 16th of July 2025? Are we all in agreement?
So moved, sir.
Okay. I see no dissent or amendments, so I will sign those after the meeting. Item 3, declarations of interest. I pass over to our legal department.
Chair, have not been informed of any declaration of interest.
Thank you. Okay, I can't see any hands. Okay, moving on to item 4, which is public question time. Just to remind the people that are asking questions today, thank you for the questions. You have 3 minutes to put your points across. I would just like to outline that all councillors have had sight of the question, so you needn't read everything out again and just Bracy, but that's completely up to you. Our first person is Lawrence Bennett. If you'd like to take the microphone, thank you. You have 3 minutes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Larry Bennett, former radio officer at Portishead Radio Station, the world's largest maritime radio station based in Highbridge, Somerset, which closed in 2000. It housed the world's largest Morse code operating room with over 50 positions in operation at one time. At its peak, over 1,000 ships each day made contact with the station by Morse code, radio telephony and radio telex. The site was demolished in 2007 and a housing estate known as Mulholland Park erected on the site. There was no thought at all as to the site's heritage and history, with all buildings and equipment totally destroyed. It served mariners all over the world with an uninterrupted service for over 80 years and was internationally renowned for its high quality of service and for contributing to safety of life at sea. It was a major employer in the area and a vital part of the local community throughout its life. Its importance, both locally, nationally, and internationally, deserves to be celebrated. Since the station's closure, many staff have campaigned to have some sort of memorial to the station to be installed on the site. The sum of £15,000 was given by the developers for this purpose as an S106 agreement, which I understand has now been ring-fenced by the council. However, various issues between the developers and the council have precluded the money being used for its intended purpose, and despite numerous attempts by myself and others over the past 20 years to resolve this, no progress has been made. A suitable plaque has been designed for the site, and the sum of £1,000 has been pledged for this purpose by the Radio Officers Association. An information board detailing the history of the site has been designed and costed, and it is only the lack of permission to erect these items which is holding us back. Other items can be added as required, hopefully. I am happy to provide full written details of our projected plans to everyone concerned. I call upon the council to move forward as quickly as possible to rectify this situation. It is a scandal that nothing is in place to remember this piece of national history on our doorstep. The town of Portishead, where the radio transmitters were located, has many items on display, and it is only right that this station at Highbridge should do something similar. I have the support of my local council and our MP in this matter, and I shall be keeping them informed of our progress. If anyone would like further information about the station, I do have a small booklet which you can see me and get more information about. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Federica, please.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for your question, Mr Bennett. It is regrettable that this situation remains unresolved. I can clarify that the position is that there is a Section 106 on the site agreed, and that was agreed on the 22nd of August 2006 by the former Sedgemoor District Council, and that it required the developer to pay the £15,000 that you mentioned for the council to erect a memorial to the radio station on open space land. Taylor Wimpey paid this amount in 2008, and the funds are ring-fenced. However, in order to erect the memorial, the land needs to be transferred to the council. However, boundary issues have resulted in the open space land never being transferred to Sedgemoor District and now to us at Somerset Council. Therefore, as the council don't own the land, the council cannot erect a memorial using the contributions collected. The SEAL and Community Engagement Officer has requested legal intervention to ensure Bellway Homes engage with the council to transfer the land. I hope that this evidences that the council are not yet able to erect the plaque, but we are doing all that we can to progress matters with the developer.
Yeah, thank you for your concise answer. Thank you very much. Your work is appreciated. I know there are issues involved, but if we can sort of get this settled as soon as we can, it'll be for the benefit of everyone concerned. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. Okay, the next question comes from Paul Partington. Is he here? Is he on? No, I can't see him online and obviously not in the room. If I can move on to Simon Baker, and I know that you are online, I believe, to put your question. So you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Yes, my name is Simon Baker. I live in a small rural settlement called Kenton Mandeville near Somerton. My question relates to the backlog of planning approvals and the 5-year land supply. A 1,500 planning approval backlog has caused Somerset Council to fall short of the government mandated 5-year land supply target. In response, the council has applied tilted balance provisions which bypass local plans and ignore local community wishes. Why is this acceptable, and what safeguards are being put in place to protect democratic principles in the planning process? Thank you.
Thank you very much. As Councillor Rigby's not here, the leader would answer on his behalf.
Thank you, Chair, and of course substitute, I can assure you. Thank you very much for the question. The Council receives over 1,500 planning applications each quarter, which naturally results in a high volume of work in progress. However, this does not affect our ability to demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply. The 5-year supply is based on deliverable housing sites identified in the local plan, not on the number of undecided applications. The updated National Planning Policy Framework, December 2024, increased Somerset's housing requirement by 41% to approximately 75,000 homes by 2045. The tilted balance is a national policy that applies only when a council cannot demonstrate a 5-year supply. Even then, planning decisions must still consider the local plan, environmental and infrastructure impacts, and public consultation. Significant applications continue to be decided by elected members. While these issues are often linked in public debate, the backlog of applications, 5-year supply, and tilted balance are all distinct matters with separate implications. A more detailed response will be in writing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Ben Burden-Cooper. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Chair. As an LA-maintained school, Storley Primary School has successfully operated in budget a 3-class structure for the last decade. Despite having a high percentage of attending children registered with SEN, the school has consistently delivered results that place it in the top tier of primary schools in Somerset and within the top 2% nationally. Despite this success, Somerset Council has, in its rebuild plans for the school, decided to only fund 2 classrooms, despite provisional planning being granted for 3. The decision and implications of reducing the number of classrooms should have been made clear and fully considered by Somerset Council. It was not covered in the key decision report, and the equality impact assessment was misleading. These reports made no mention that the proposal was to reduce the number of classrooms, that it would potentially impact on employment of staff. It failed to mention the impact on protected groups present within the school, and claimed to have been completed in consultation with the head teacher when no such consultation had taken place. The school and governing body have persistently sought to challenge the rebuild decision, asking it for it to be reviewed, raising concerns to both Director for Education and Councillor Shearer specifically about the impact on pupils' educational outcomes, the impact on protected groups present at the school, the impact on staff and employment, the justification that there was no requirement to include pupils from outside the school's catchment in their capital funding calculations, that the guidelines for multi-year class were smaller and supported the 3-class structure. No answers have been forthcoming. In the light of all I have highlighted to you, will the Council agree to review the decision to rebuild the school with 2 classrooms and fund the 3rd classroom? Utilise a proportion of the 2024-25 £431,000 surplus school conditions bid that it proposed to set aside to fund that additional classroom? Will the Council now also provide answers to the following concerns? It is Somerset Council policy to discount children from another county when calculating capital allowances. Review the provision for SEN within the new build design, which it has failed to do so to date, and ensure that it will assume responsibility for any areas where it fails to meet the standards as set out in the Equality Act and in DfE Bulletin 102. Given the deficiencies highlighted in the Equality Impact Assessment, will the Education Department now also self-refer the document to the relevant scrutiny committee? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Heather, please.
Thank you, Mr. Burden-Cooper. I appreciate you coming along to ask your question. I've been asked to only give a brief reply just in the interest of time, but of course a full answer will be given to you for all of the, in a written format, for all 5 of the questions and other points you've raised. So I'll at least take you through what I can say now, and the rest will come in writing. Thank you for coming for your questions about Storley Primary School and for drawing Council's attention to the performance of the school. In answer to 4A, the school had a baseline of pupil numbers of 54 in 2024, with the forecast numbers of 57 in 25 and 26, reduced to 48 by 2029. On the basis of these numbers, a third classroom would not be necessary to meet demand. There is a therapy or withdrawal room shown on the plan submitted by the planning application and included in our scheme. The school can choose to designate this space as an SEN resource if so required. This is also in addition to the group or breakout space that was provided or shown in the central area of the new school extension, which is over and above what was required for the school population. Ultimately, the school can designate the use of this space to suit the requirements that it has now, while also providing flexibility with any changes that may occur in future. For 4B, as the demand does not evidence the need for a third classroom, a review of that decision and proposed funding would not be supported. As I say, the other questions will follow in writing. I may also just to acknowledge that I am aware that there has been, these issues have been also raised by a local councillor directly to the council, and I just wanted to assure you that we would actually get a response to that one as well as quickly as we can, and just to apologise for any slowness in my own responses to you. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your response. We will consider and feedback, but thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. I think this might be timely to remind councillors to switch off their mobile phones. Okay, I have the next speaker, Andrew Knight, is being read out by Sammy Millard-Jones, who I believe is online. Good afternoon, Sammy, and you have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. When Selwood Parish Council and Berkeley Parish Council met with Somerset Council's Head of Planning on the 5th of April 2024, we were assured that Somerset was fully reviewing its position on providing the necessary number of Gypsy Romney Traveller pitches by hiring external consultants to get the job done quickly and effectively. Somerset Council's administration has not picked up on the suggestion to legitimise well-established GRT pitches for the benefit of all parties, helping the council meet its long overdue target, GRT families and Somerset parishes. In a time of finances stretched beyond breaking point, it seems that the council goes to expensive lengths to exclude and not hear the voices of locals with relevant knowledge, especially when an officer or two could have had these issues addressed simply and quickly. As our parishes have heard nothing further 18 months later, the following questions arise. Why was the GRT pitch strategy consultation undertaken without including parishes with large numbers of GRT pitches, or even those not providing any GRT pitches currently? Somerset East has one of the highest GRT pitch needs in the country. And why has Somerset's GRT pitch strategy not been delivered yet? And finally, why has nobody actioned the certificate of lawfulness proposal made by district and parish councillors to meet the needs of many existing GRT pitches in Somerset East, i.e. a simple, cost-effective, quick win for Somerset Council that will put our allocation into perspective? Thank you.
Thank you. Federica.
Thank you, and thank you for your question, Mr. Knight. Like Heather before you, I'll answer the first 2 questions, but you'll get a full written response. So the Gypsy and Traveller Accommodation Assessment, the GTAA, is a technical document based on factual data. It is an objective assessment of how many pitches, plots and facilities are needed by families living on sites and yards across the Somerset Local Planning Authority area, and those members of that community currently living in bricks and mortar. It does not set policy direction or allocate sites. That will come later in the local planning process, which will be subject to consultation. The Gypsy and Traveller Accommodation Assessment, like the Local Housing Needs Assessment, which established settled housing requirements, is an objective technical document based on factual data, and therefore isn't consulted or input required from parish councils. The GTAA is taking longer than initially expected due to the time to undertake the site reviews and the consultant's capacity. And what I'd like to offer, though, is to come and visit those parish councils alongside my colleague Mike Rigby, who oversees planning, and we'll look to see if we can get a date in the diary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Downing's question will also be read out by Sammy. So back to you, Sammy. Another 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Following the illegal felling of historic woodland, including trees protected by TPO, unauthorised development of a gypsy traveller pitch, destruction of bat habitat, a retrospective refusal of planning permission by Mendip planning officers, and the planning inspectorate dismissing an appeal application, the matter was to be referred back to Bristol High Court for a full injunction, following the temporary injunction imposed by the High Court in July 2022, which was then breached 3 times by further development of the site in the second half of 2022 and 2023. The legal team for Somerset Council advised in June 2024 that KC had directed the matter to be listed for a directions hearing, time estimate 90 minutes, via Microsoft Teams on the first available date after the 22nd of July. We were told the court will confirm the hearing date by a formal hearing notice, and very shortly I will keep you posted. This hearing happened on the 29th of July 2024, and Selwood Parish Council were later advised that the matter would indeed be returned to court. Selwood has requested updates in the interim, 14 months to no avail. Selwood understand that Somerset Council have chosen not to call Selwood or the Forestry Commission as witnesses in this court case, and so the following questions arise. When is this matter going back to the High Court in pursuance of the full injunction? What evidence will Somerset Council be providing to the High Court in relation to the 3 breaches of the temporary injunction, which was granted to Somerset Council at the High Court case in July 2022? Please can Somerset Council assure Selwood that they are still looking to pursue this matter legally and obtain a full injunction so that the woodland can be restored or replanted? Would Somerset Council agree that failure to pursue the above course of action would set a precedent for any would-be developer to buy up the county's woodland and chop it down for development? And finally, please can Somerset Council advise if they have put a charge or similar action on the site as requested by Selwood in August 2024? Following the High Court's directional hearing, the site was then offered for sale online. The Forestry Commission have issued an enforcement notice to restock, replant the woodland, while Somerset Council have ongoing injunctive proceedings in respect of this site being restored to woodland. Therefore, Selwood Parish Council considered it essential that a charge or similar action be put on the site at the Land Registry so that prospective future owners were made aware of these issues, and to protect both Selwood Parish Council and Somerset Council from any future additional financial liabilities.
Thank you. Right, back to the leader in the absence of Councillor Rigby.
Thank you for the question. I can confirm that the matter is listed for trial at the High Court on the 13th of November 2025. To avoid prejudicing the Council's case, we cannot disclose the specific evidence to be presented at this stage. It is being prepared under legal advice and will be made public at the appropriate time. The Council remains fully committed to pursuing this litigation. We take breaches of planning control seriously and continue to act in line with our legal requirements. In this case, enforcement and injunctive proceedings are being pursued to secure restoration of the woodland. As required by the Planning Act, both the enforcement notice and stop notice are registered against the land in the Register of Local Land Charges. This provides formal notice to prospective purchasers and is considered a sufficient safeguard. We trust that this clarifies the Council's position.
Thank you. Can I give one more call for Paul Partington? I don't believe anyone's joined us in the room, whether there's anybody online. No. Obviously, I think is... So, in other words, with all of the questioners, plus the others that didn't make the agenda, they will be having a full written answer sent to them. So, Paul will get his sent. Did you want to say something? This isn't a debate.
I know it's not a debate, Chairman. Thank you for indulging me. But will the answers to the questions that didn't make the cut, so to speak,
Yes.
will those be available publicly as well? As
Yes.
Maybe
Yeah.
as an appendix to the minutes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right, if we move on to agenda item 5, which is Chairman's announcements. The visits made by myself and the Vice Chairman are listed on page 19 of the agenda. If you require any other details, please approach us anytime and we can give you some more details. But it's not unusual for us to pay tribute to members of our past councillors who have served on other communities, which we are about to do. But this time is different, as one of those covered today was a serving councillor on this authority. And it was with much sadness that we advised the passing of Councillor Nick on the 11th of August. So Nick Cottle served his community with dedication and distinction for many years. He was the first elected as a Liberal Democrat member for Glastonbury St Edmunds Ward at Mendip District Council in May 2007, returning to serve again from May 2011 until the council's transition to Somerset Council, where he continued as a unitary councillor until his death. Throughout his long and committed public service, he held several important roles, including Deputy Chair of Mendip District Council. He was honoured to represent the council at the Queen's Garden Party in 2020. Most recently at Somerset Council, Nick served as Chair of the Planning Committee East and was an active member of the council's scrutiny function. He had just returned from a much anticipated trip to Canada. Nick will be remembered for his warmth, integrity and unwavering commitment for his constituents and colleagues. He will be deeply missed by all who had the privilege of working with him. I attended his funeral service in Glastonbury on the 10th of September. The church was full, which again underlines the support that he had in his community. Our thoughts are with his family and friends at this most difficult time. Also, we have ex-councillor Phil Mokes. Phil Mokes served as a Liberal Democrat councillor on Somerset County Council from 2001 for 2 terms. He was a very popular and active member of the Frome community who helped establish Frome FM, the community radio station, which is still going strong today. Later, he went on to form Radio Visual Arts, a community-led video and radio recording facility which enabled many local performers to record their work for broader release on social media channels. Phil was also chair of the Cheese and Grain Hall in Frome, helping to see the venue through many early teething problems before becoming the major success that it now is. Phil's contributions to Frome are too numerous to list here. He was well-loved and respected figure in the town. In recent years, he moved back to his native Wiltshire, where he continued his video outreach work. His talent, determination, generosity, and kindness will be greatly missed by those who knew him. And I thank Martin Dimmery for these words. Finally, we have another ex-councillor, Des Harris. Elected as one of the first Green Party member councillors, Des and his wife represented Frome Market Ward from 2015 to 2019. Des was a keen member of the Mendip Planning Committee. He was a driving force behind the Mount Community Garden next to the old Shore Stark Centre and set up the Children's Vegetable Garden next door. As an early member of the Sustainable Frome, part of the Transition Town movement, he played a central role in many of the group's initiatives which were taken forward by the Independent Town Council. He also served on the board of Frome Festival and was a governor of Oakfield School from 2008 to 2015, bringing to the role his experience as a head teacher and later as a school inspector. Beyond politics and education, Des contributed widely to the community life. He was a Frome Area Community Land Trust Board member, a member of Frome Community Choir, a regular attendee at Frome Quaker meetings, and a mentor and supportive listener to many young people in the town. Des was committed environmentalist in 2018 before Somerset Waste Partnership being collecting plastic tubs on doorsteps. Des set up a collection point outside his house and took all of his neighbours' waste plastic to the local recycling centres. He was also an active member of Return the Plastic to Supermarkets campaign. He also advised many people on how to grow fruit and vegetables and ran the Dig with Des project for newcomers to vegetable growing. He would be seen around the town well into his 70s. Could you join me now in standing for a minute's silence, please? Thank you very much, councillors. Our thoughts obviously go out to all of the people that I've mentioned, to their families at this time. I'd like to open it up now for other contributions. I know, Liz, you wish to speak to our first.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'd like to speak for a moment about our long-standing colleague, Nick Cottle. It was a terrible shock to lose Nick so soon after his return from his, as you said, long-anticipated holiday to join family in Canada. Nick set the bar very high for community engagement, and the full church that you have referred to is testament to his popularity, not through politics, but by talking to everyone, listening to their issues, their problems, their compliments, and making sure that they got to the right people, whether that was the Town Council, Mendip District Council, then shortly Somerset County Council, and now, of course, Somerset Council. I believe his funeral was a fitting goodbye to both a sitting councillor and a former mayor of Glastonbury. Nick was laid to rest in the land of the town he loved so much and served for so long. It was a sad day for his council family, as it was for his own family, whose roots go back many generations in the land of Wick, one of the loveliest hamlets in Glastonbury. We miss Nick, but we remember him with affection and admiration, and I'd like to thank everybody who attended Nick's funeral. I only wish he'd been there to see it. He would have loved it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Liz. Does anyone else wish to add? If not, is any... Oh, yes.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting to say anything, but I'd just say I would like to echo all Liz's words. Nick was a fantastic councillor, a really, really nice guy, and I will miss working with him in Glastonbury, and all the people who he represented in Glastonbury also will miss his presence. Everything that Liz has done since his sad, early, unexpected death has been much appreciated by those in the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. I'd just like to say a few words about Des Harris. Yeah,
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Go for it. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Des was a personal friend of mine. I met him about 30 odd years ago on singing holidays, and we both moved to Frome about the same time, about 20 years ago. And yeah, he actually, Shane, he was, as we've just mentioned, very regular member of Sustainable Frome. And Shane used to come along to those meetings and convinced Des and his wife, Estina, to stand as paper candidates. And they both got in at Market Ward because he'd already done such a lot of community work. He was well known in the community and very well liked. So sort of between the three of them, they sort of broke the glass ceiling for the Greens. And he encouraged me to come along with him on some planning visits that he was doing, site visits. He encouraged me to stand as a Green councillor, so it's his fault, and particularly tried to get me on planning. Yeah, he felt he was very dedicated to the work that he did at Mendip District Council. I'm going to miss him terribly because he was a personal friend of mine. As other people have said about him, he had a very strong moral code because he was a Quaker, practicing Quaker, and he always sort of seemed to instinctively know what was the right thing to do, and I will miss him as a kind of a mentor as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to add, not to leave, Phil Mokes? Yes, Hazel.
Thank you. I'm probably the only person who recalls Phil on the council because it was a long while ago, but he was just such a lovely, gentle chap. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazel. Right, I see no further hands. So moving on, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Christine Lawrence here today. Welcome back, Christine. I was just going to read some details before we move on. Christine Lawrence's long and distinguished career in public service stands as a testament to her unwavering commitment to the people and communities of West Somerset over more than 3 decades. Christine has served with integrity, compassion, and deep understanding of the needs of her constituents. Christine began her journey in local government in the 1990s when she was elected to Minehead Town Council, where she quickly became known for her thoughtful approach and dedication to community well-being. Her early work laid the foundation for a career marked by tireless advocacy and leadership. In 1999, Christine was elected to the former West Somerset District Council, representing Minehead North Ward. Her tenure on the District Council was defined by her focus on local development, community engagement, and environmental stewardship. She later served as leader of the council, guided the authority through the key decisions, and representing West Somerset with distinction. Christine's commitment to public service continued with her election to Somerset County Council in 2001, representing the Dunster Division for 24 years. She came to be a steadfast voice for rural communities, covering 15 parishes from Alcombe and Minehead to Toowoomba. Her work has spanned planning, health scrutiny, and strategic planning development. And she has held roles with the former County Council and our council on numerous committees, including the Cabinet, as a Cabinet member for Adult Social Care, Adults and Health Scrutiny Committee, Strategic Planning Committee, and the Local Community Network for Minehead and Watchet. It is important to highlight that Christine has been the first to hold key roles with the council. In 2015, she was appointed as the first woman chair of Somerset County Council, a role that she excelled at, and I can back that up because I knew her when I was chair of South Somerset District Council. She was the first portfolio holder for public health when she moved over to the local authority from the NHS in 2013. From the start, she was passionate advocate for health and well-being, recognising how important it was and is for Somerset residents. Christine was the first chair of the Health and Wellbeing Board, skillfully bringing people together across the Somerset system to work together to improve health and to tackle unjust inequalities. She has a fantastic ability to bring people together around a particular issue and led the board wonderfully and skillfully over several years, fostering a culture of joint working and collaboration. Fellow councillors and our senior officers have reflected that Christine had a ready smile, a reassuring manner, and a real enthusiasm and commitment to improving the lives of the people of Somerset. Our Director of Public Health highlighted to me that Christine has helped to shape Somerset's public health team and always joined in with community or team events, as well as being first up on the dance floor. Thank you, Christine. You have been a true supporter of public health and have been an inspirational leader. Beyond her county council duties, Christine has represented the council for many years on the Exmoor National Parks Authority, the Hinkley Point C Monitoring Group, and the Visit Exmoor Executive Board, reflecting her deep commitment to promoting and preserving the natural beauty and vitality of Somerset. Christine's legacy is one of service, leadership and care. Her ability to connect with people, understand their concerns, and advocate for meaningful change has left a lasting impact on Somerset. She has inspired colleagues and constituents alike with her dedication, and her contributions will be remembered with gratitude and admiration. We commend and thank Christine for her exceptional public service and the positive difference she has made to so many lives. Thank you. Turn your microphone on, Christine.
Thank you. It's been a real privilege to work with you all over many years. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I shall enjoy having a bit more time at home. But it's been a real privilege, and I shall remember you all and the work that you've done, long and hard. People have no idea outside in the community how hard you have to work to get the things done that you need to do in your community. So well done to you. Keep up the good work, and hopefully you'll continue to enjoy it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. I'd like to now open it up. Diogo, I know you want to say a few words.
Thank you, Chair. Just a few short words from me. As you've said, Christine has served her community for nearly 3 decades. She's represented residents at town, district and county, and she's given an immense amount of time, energy and commitment to the people of Somerset. And so on behalf of the Conservative group, we would like to thank Christine for her outstanding contribution, not just to this council and to Somerset, but to the local Conservative Party too, and for the positive example she has set as a councillor over so many years. And we as a group wish her well in her retirement from politics. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I can see a hand at the back, but Mandy, yes.
I know I'm in a different spot today, so forgive me. Christine. Oh, it's a buzz. Honesty, integrity, objectivity, accountability, selflessness, openness, leadership. The ethical standards expected of public office holders, and Christine, you've met, lived and exceeded those standards every day since you were elected over 27 years ago. So you've been a councillor for more than a quarter of a century, and as we've heard, the record of your service to the residents of Somerset has been both extensive and varied. I know that as a child, you never could have imagined how much you would have achieved politically, but more importantly, how much you would have helped to change the lives of so many for the better. You've been a trailblazer for women in politics, the only woman leader of West Somerset District Council, the only woman chair of Somerset County Council. You've held senior positions within West Somerset District Council and Somerset County Council, but you've encouraged, you've guided and supported many with wise words and humility, often taking time to talk things through, often aided with tea and cake. But I learned never to underestimate you as a councillor. You have a caring heart, but also a sharp mind. You've always been rock solid with a resilience and inner strength unlike any other that I know, someone on whom we could all depend. You've given your time freely and always been there for your residents in West Somerset and beyond, working tirelessly and patiently, attending thousands, and I mean thousands, of parish council meetings, often needing your torch to find the way to them on dark winter's evenings. I know that it's been a great honour for you to serve, most recently at Somerset Council and Exmoor National Park, but speaking personally, we've had many adventures and fun times, including the time the pony stole your apple. She'll tell you about it later. We've shared laughter and tears, and I'm sure in this room and many beyond will join me when I say you've been so highly regarded by councillors, residents and officers alike. You will be missed, and we all wish you well and all the very best in your retirement. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee Redman.
Chair, thank you. I just wanted to add a quick word. I wanted to say thank you. Christine, you've been an amazing councillor. You've been so helpful to me over the years. From advice in my role as a new councillor till now, you've always had wise words for a cross-party councillor. One of my fondest memories is a time when I was lucky enough to be Mayor of Bridgewater at the time when you were chair of this council. I still have the picture up on my wall now of a selfie that I took with it, which included our current chair, yourself and your husband in a lovely selfie, and the smile on your face is something I will always remember. Christine, thank you for your time. I wish you well in your retirement.
Marcus Crivas.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Christine. There won't be the elegant words that we've heard elsewhere, but I just want to say, as your fellow division councillor over the last couple of years, I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed working with you. Sad to see you retire now. I wish you could have held out a couple more years, but it's genuinely been, and obviously we go back a long way, but I've only been a working councillor with you for a couple of years, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and just like to say thank you for your help.
John Cook-Woodman.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, I worked with Christine on the last cabinet, and it was fantastic. Of course, kindness, integrity, and hard work, and knowledge and skill goes without saying, and all of that is true. But I just wanted to make sure we didn't forget just how much fun it was working with Christine as well. We could always have a laugh and a giggle, and she's just a wonderful person to be around. So thank you, Christine, and you shall be sorely missed here.
Francis Nicholson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Just to echo what everybody else is saying, if ever I have disagreed with Christine, I have needed to think very hard, because she was almost always right, and her moral compass is so perfect, so absolutely true, that if I disagreed, I needed to think very hard. Why? Because I was almost certainly wrong. And the other bit, much more fun, is the tea and cakes bit. There is a bus that goes round the town in Minehead in the day, and it goes out to Porlock and back, also in the day. Because of Christine's ability with tea and cakes in her flat, she led me through the process between the two of us to persuade various people in the community that this was something to be supported, and it runs today.
Thank you. Bill.
Thank you, Chair. I first met Christine when we were both on the chain gang when she was chair of Somerset County Council and I was mayor of North Petherton, and just like to associate myself with all the comments and my group of all the comments that have been made in tribute to your long service to this council. I've had the pleasure of serving with you on Somerset County Council, Exmoor National Park Authority, and of course Somerset Council now. When I first became a Somerset County Councillor and walked into the foyer of the County Hall, and indeed back in those days we could also walk into Shire Hall, there are tributes to the great and good of Somerset, but unfortunately they're all men. And you and I worked together to make sure that Nora Fry, the first ever woman Somerset County Councillor, was remembered, and we now have the Nora Fry room in County Hall, and I'm sure at some point there will be a Christine Lawrence room somewhere in County Hall. So I do really appreciate your long service that you have given. We have had many tributes now to Christine, and I'd like to propose that we do something a little bit unconventional if the Leader of the Opposition would also support, that we agree an exemption to our honorary alderman scheme and invite an application to consider appointing Christine as an alderman of Somerset Council. Our Part C of our council constitution sets out the scheme. It states in fact paragraph 5.4 that applications shall only be made in the year of council elections, which of course would not be until May 2027. I believe we can't wait till May 2027. We want to do this now, and therefore propose that the exemption to the scheme, subject to the council's approval today, a special full council meeting will be held on the same day as the next scheduled full council meeting on the 17th of December to consider the application and proposed appointment as an alderwoman. I'd like to ask that Councillor Diego Rodriguez join me, that he proposed and I second, that Somerset Council agrees an exemption to paragraph 5.4 of the Honorary Alderman Scheme to allow an application to be considered on the 17th of December for the proposed appointment of former Councillor Christine Lawrence as an Alderwoman of Somerset Council.
Thank you, Chairman. I think this is the perfect way to honour Christine Lawrence, and I'm happy to second. Thank you.
That's fine. Okay, the motion has been put and seconded. Can I show a show of hands, all those in favour? Any against? Okay, that is carried. Okay, and obviously that will come forward to the December meeting. It would be remiss of me not to add to the thanks to Christine. I'm a current member of the Passion for Somerset board, and Christine was on the board setting up Somerset Day. So she's done a lot of work in that, and I think that should be mentioned as well. But thank you again, Christine, and as I spoke to you earlier, I should be seeing you again in not too distant future. Thank you. Right, if we can now move on to agenda item 6, which is the dedicated school grants deficit management plan. And Heather Shearer, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's quite a hard thing to follow. I won't make it anywhere near as exciting or as interesting and as full of care, but let's hope I do my best. Yes, I'm very pleased to bring this report forward. I just want to, this is the updated assessment on the dedicated schools grant financial position. It follows the approval of the deficit management plan by the executive on the 6th of August. That was approved there, and after able and very comprehensive and very considered feedback from a one-item children's scrutiny, which was augmented by many members who also helped us with feedback on the DMP, as we call it, the deficit management plan that we've put forward. So the work has been at least done to set this stall out. And I need to thank the Scrutiny Committee for that. I'm happy to do so. What's in front of you really is the full overarching plan, if you like. It does show the many different actions or starts to show some of the many actions it's going to follow. There are some things which we've identified which we can get on with straight away to address this building deficit. in the gap between what the government gives us and what it costs to look after our children who have special educational needs. Some we can get on with straight away. Some are within our policies but need more resource, and so papers may come forward to describe that. And some are new approaches that need consultation and policy change. So across those three types of activities, you will see a series of papers, business plans and decisions will follow this work. And I'm indebted to all those people who are really grateful to look at it and keep us on the right track with what's a very big job for us to do. But the paper today really, although all that information is in there, the paper today is really the executive making a recommendation to council to agree just what the financial impact is of this first stage of the deficit management plan. It has some small, at this stage, impacts on our budgets, and council are asked to approve those changes, and that's why I'm bringing it forward. So I'm very happy to make the proposal, if you like, or to propose the recommendation set out on page 23 of your pack. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, can I move to Liz Leishan, who is seconded the proposal?
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to second this and will reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Okay, I'll open it up to the floor for any questions. Yes, Diego.
Just a couple of points, really, Chairman, if I may. In the document, on the scrutiny comments, it makes reference to the 5 recommendations that they made, but it doesn't reference in the report what those 5 recommendations actually were, unless I've missed them. And I also recall having attended the executive meeting where this was discussed, that those recommendations, or perhaps it was not all of them, could have been agreed because of a want from the executive to tweak the wording slightly. And I'm just wondering if there's an update on the wording that the scrutiny committee put forward for those 5 recommendations, because it's not clear in the report. That's one question.
Yes.
If I make a start, but then I'm sure my colleague Lee would want to come and talk about that. You're absolutely right, and forgive me for the 5 not being repeated in here, I guess, because we had them in the original executive paper. They perhaps should have been repeated again. The delegation was, there were 5 recommendations that scrutiny committee made, which you were on, that workshop was on, we brought those to the executive, and the executive delegated the responsibility to myself, Lee and Scott Woolridge to work out how to take those forward, just to make sure that the good work and the good issues that were brought up by the scrutiny were properly and fully understood, so that we take them forward. So that first meeting has been held, and I know that Lee wanted to come in and talk about that, but certainly you're right. I think probably 5 out of the 5, 3 could have been said yes to straight away. I think 3 and 4 we wanted to just be absolutely sure we knew what we meant by that, and I'll hand over to Lee because I know he wants to raise some issues about that too and explain where we are so far. Thank you.
Okay. Lee?
Chair, thank you, Councillor Rodriguez. I was going to come in and speak specifically around that, but I think forgive me, just a point of clarification first. Just for clarity, the DMP itself isn't in front of us today. These are the financial decisions that are able. I think the important point that needs to be made is the DMP, if I'm right, is the property of the executive. So in effect, that was where the committee's recommendations went. And Councillor Rodriguez is absolutely right. We're waiting for a full response. So Councillor Shearer did come to the Scrutiny Committee to give an initial response, but there was an element of clarity that was sought in that. If it helps, Chair, I'll just go into what I was going to say now, and that might give you the opportunity. So, Chair, I note the decision today is financially driven. The DMP has already been approved and is the property of the executive. I wanted to add my thanks to the councillors that took part in the debate at the special meeting when we debated the full plan. I support the recommendations before us today. I note that you will be receiving, so the executive will be receiving regular financial reports. I must use this opportunity to remind the executive of one of the main recommendations from my committee. We asked the executive to establish a member-led programme management board to maintain oversight and management. The committee itself recognised that scrutiny of the progress of this plan is cross-cutting and too big for one scrutiny committee. Can I ask that this board, the management board, is set up as soon as possible and is adequately resourced to ensure that every step of this plan is scrutinised? from policy development through to the final celebration of the surplus of our DSG. The reason I talk about the fact that it should be established is because already Children and Families Scrutiny are receiving policy changes that can be seen as right at the moment, but to be able to have oversight of everything, my concern, and I said this, Heather, at our last meeting, is that bringing forward policy a bite at a time, until you see everything in place from above, you may not realise of the consequential impacts of each of the individual decisions. So a management board with the necessary interest from members and potentially officers who have the knowledge of each of the individual elements would be beneficial. We're talking about, the end of this year, £100 million deficit, potentially by 2029, nearly 200, 300 million. Who knows what this is going to be? I really hope that we recognise with the statutory override that there's a need for government to take its share in responsibility of this, but to help its progress through Somerset, we need that board in place at the earliest opportunity so that they can help scrutiny look at the policy developments as well as the progress. Thank you, Chair.
Heather.
Thank you, Lee. I agree entirely with you. I think we're both on the same page with that one, both in terms of it does, you're right, there are financial responsibilities or financial scrutiny, but there's also the scrutiny about how we are actually making things, how we're putting things in place which actually improve outcomes for children, because at the end of it, that's what it's about, as well as dealing with the deficit. So I'm absolutely in agreement with that. My apologies, it was only fairly recently that we actually met, but I will make sure and undertake that we actually get that in place as quickly as possible. Emails have been exchanging behind the scenes about that, and I just want to make sure I agree with you, that needs to be there. Just for completeness, the two recommendations from memory, and forgive me, I'm doing this from memory, the two recommendations that we sought more approval or more comprehension about, one was around what we meant by data sharing. That was, I think it was number 4, but number 3 was that very thing that Lee's talked about, which was this having this board of the right people, if you like, with the right resources and the right time to give these things proper consideration. So completely on board with that, Lee, and have no problem in taking that forward.
Martin Whale.
Yes, thank you, Joe. Taking nothing away from the hard work and the recommendations and suggestions on this report, there is various mentions during the report and to an attached appendix, phase 53 onwards, from people too. And I understand they were employed to come up with the recommendations, and that's fine. The only thing I can't find in all the financial details of this report is how much did the consultancy by People 2 cost this council? Thank you.
Heather, do you want to take that?
Well, I'll start it. I wish I could remember what the value was myself. I just want to make a point, though, about the People 2 recommendations, because they're really key. People 2 have intermittently over the last few years helped us with various parts of our business as a children's service, and they did come in to support us, particularly with this one, because the kind of the cost potentially and the risk potentially is so high. I can't imagine the amount of money it cost us to do that would actually be anywhere near what we're likely to save if we get all these things right. People 2 came up with 30 recommendations, and we're at pains through the data that we've gone through to make sure that all of those recommendations are actually woven into our plans to take things forward. So we're certainly getting the best value for money out of that, but I'm going to have to ask some questions in the background and get that for you, Martin, because I cannot remember the exact amount that it was for that particular, that was quite a defined piece of work, and I'd have to find exactly the right amount of, the correct amount. I haven't got it to hand, forgive me.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. Thanks, Heather. But I agree with all you've said, I'm sure, but I just cannot find it on this report that amount, which should be there somewhere, in my humble opinion.
Francis Nicholson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to echo what Councillor Redmond had to say, also to welcome what Councillor Shearer has said. I appreciate absolutely that SEND is a multi-agency matter. It's education, health and care plans. but the financial risk that we're dealing with here is us, and members have got to be involved in oversight.
Thank you. Yes, Diego.
Thanks, Chair. I did have two questions, but rightly so, Councillor Redmond came in on a similar point. The second question was just for clarity, and I think I've asked this at Executive, but we've moved on. Recommendation 1 of the People 2 recommendations, which is also in Appendix 1, says, in order to provide the capacity to drive SEND transformation, ... we recommend recruiting to the head of SEND post as soon as possible. Those recommendations are dated almost 6 months ago, so I'm just wondering, considering that the head of SEND post is crucial to deliver much of what we're wanting to deliver with this, can you update us on where we are with that post?
Heather.
Thank you. Yes, indeed. We're shorthanding it to head of SEND, but I suspect this is going to be a much bigger job than that. We haven't quite got the title right, but it's going to be more along the lines of a head of DMP, head of deficit management plan, because it's such a big role. That was a key part of the restructuring that we did. We shorthanded it for, it's a horrible jargon, but there was a whole creation through the back end of last year around the blueprints, the way all of our organisations, all of our departments should be organised to make the best value across every single, in the entire council. So service directors and directors, we're working on how best we should reorganise, and that's what created some of those job changes and so on that we've talked about in previous reports. That was part of that scoping that role was part of that reorganisation. As far as I'm aware, and I've got Claire in the room who should put me right if I get this one wrong, but at the moment what we are doing is getting that new job, if you like, approved through our HR responsibilities to make sure that we've got the job properly scoped in terms of value and in terms of how it's rated for salaries and so on. So, and as soon as we've got that, we'll get straight out to recruit for it. But I don't think we're ready at the moment to be recruiting for it. But we have to get it right, and it's a new job. It's not the old job. It's a new job which needs to be scoped appropriately.
Okay, I can't see any further hands. Liz, do you want to add?
Yes, if I may please, Chair. I just want to remind all colleagues, of course, of the relevance of this forecast deficit for the Dedicated Schools Grant, which is very significant for this council, as it is for many other councils in the country. And so the importance of this deficit management plan forms a major part of all of the work ahead of us to achieve a sustainable council. And I just want to add a reminder yet again that the government's statutory override to 2028 is not in any way a solution. It simply moves the issue further down the line, but the challenge remains. And for this council, as well as for many other councils, this is one of the most significant financial aspects of our work in trying to achieve a sustainable council. So I'm very happy to second this work, and like my colleague Councillor Shearer, I thank Children's Scrutiny for the work they've done already. That was an extremely good one-item agenda meeting, and I look forward to being able to attend as much as possible of the programme board work going forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Unless, Heather, you want to add any?
No, I'm very happy to put this forward, with recommendations forward. I haven't got any more information yet. If during the course of the meeting I get the information that Martin wanted to know or anything else, I certainly will pass it on through the chair.
Thank you. So the recommendations listed on page 23 have been put and seconded. Can I have a show of hands, all those in favour? Anyone against? Any abstentions? Okay. Oh, one abstention. Two abstentions. Sorry, I missed one. Okay, that's carried. Thank you. We're moving on to item 7, which is the use of housing revenue account reserves for purchase of additional council housing stock. And Federica, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to present this report recommending the use of just over £3 million from our housing revenue account reserves to purchase additional council housing stock. This proposal represents a proactive and strategic investment in Somerset's housing future, one that balances financial prudence with social responsibility. Our current HRA reserve stands at almost 18 million, well above the minimum threshold. This gives us a unique opportunity to use surplus funds to acquire up to 15 properties, primarily through Section 106 agreements. We will aim for these acquisitions to be at discounted rates and allow us to act swiftly in addressing urgent housing needs. These homes will serve a dual purpose. In the short term, they will provide much needed temporary accommodation, helping us reduce reliance on costly private placements and offer greater stability to those who are in crisis. In the long term, they will strengthen our social housing portfolio, supporting the 30-year HRA business plan and ensuring compliance with the regulator of social housing's new consumer standards. I'm grateful to the Chair of Community Scrutiny for enabling this report to be considered following the executive meeting and ahead of what I hope will be full Council's support today. The committee, having received several updates on different housing initiatives and the progress of our development programme, was strongly supportive of the approach outlined in this report. They recognise not only the direct benefit to those in urgent need of housing, but also the broader positive impact on the HRA. Such was their support that the committee requested an additional recommendation to be included, and I'm pleased to endorse this and formally table the following as Recommendation 5. So Recommendation 5 to be, request officers prepare a business case for the executive to consider for further temporary accommodation acquisitions in anticipation of this proof of concept being successful. The spirit of this recommendation is to build on the momentum of this initiative, to grow our HRA property base and extend support to those most in need. Any future business case will of course include consideration of funding options for further acquisitions. This proposal is not just about bricks and mortar, it's about delivering dignity, stability and opportunity to those who need it most. It's about using our resources wisely and planning for a future where Somerset's housing system is even more resilient, inclusive and responsive. I commend this report to the Chamber and ask for your support.
Thank you. Can I go to Tom Power, who's seconding the proposal?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll be quite brief with this, but I'm pleased to second this motion, and it's great to see some positive news as this will benefit residents in Somerset going forward. Thank you.
Fran Smith.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to support this motion. I think it's a recommendation, I think it's important that we do invest in more properties as well as we can. I just would like to clarify just at item 4, I guess there's a couple of typos because I am concerned about the chef and the leasing lead member of finance being able to make these decisions. So could we have these typos to chief and leader of the council, please, rather than the chef and the Leicester or Lisa? Thank you.
Sorry, what was it? Martin Well, please.
Yeah, thank you. At the start of this, in the executive summary, can you please, just for my information really, explain what the landlord models are and how that fits in with the South Somerset housing, which we obviously aren't landlords for, and which is run by a company, as we know. So, does the landlord model apply to the where we don't actually own the stock?
Fed.
So these properties will come into the HRA. Within the HRA, we've got two current models. We've got the landlord model, which is the in-house landlord service, which was the old West, and we've got the ALMO, so Homes in Somerset, in the north. However, when we did our capital programme and our budget back in February, we have started to kind of step outside of those geographical areas. I want to say that we're purchasing some Section 106 off the top of my head near Langport as an example. And they kind of just fit into that model and are managed between those two kind of different models. We've got the housing options that's going on at the moment to look at the future of the HRA and which way it will be run. But when it comes to these actual properties, they'll just sit into the service and move into the HRA, and it will just work out kind of who's best under those two current ways of working, who will look after the houses.
But those two current ways of working, Chair, if I may, don't include the South Somerset model. So would it mean that any of these houses will not be within South Somerset, although you just mentioned Langport, so...
So they could potentially be in the south and the east. However, we need to look at where is the greatest need for temporary accommodation alongside where houses are available for us to purchase. So they could be outside of the old west and north. They'll just sit and be ran within the HRA account.
Sue Osborne.
Thank you. I think my couple of questions probably run on from Martin, because I was going to ask where, in this particular scenario, where you're looking at the Homes in Somerset model, landlord model, where that's going to leave the Almo model in this scenario. That's my first question. And my second one is that when you come into what was the old South Somerset District Council area, at the moment, when it comes to sort of doing the 106s and the list of registered social housing providers that the developer can choose to who they negotiate with to transfer their affordable housing properties to, Homes in Somerset isn't one of those. So how's it going to work in practice? Will Homes in Somerset be buying directly from the developer, or will you be buying from the registered social landlord? Bearing in mind that I think there's 3 sites in what was the old South Somerset area that are wholly owned and being developed by social housing providers. I think the one at Langport is an Abri one from memory. I think Stonewater have one at Merriott, and also at Somerton we recently had come to planning an Abri proposal. So I'm just curious as to how it's going to work in practice in those areas, but I do welcome investment into what was the old area south.
Fed.
I'll get a full written answer, but ultimately it's Somerset Council that are going to be purchasing them, and then we purchase them from the developers, and then it's depending on geographical location, whether the in-house service run it or the ALMO run them, but it's Somerset Council that looks to purchase them, and we hold all of those assets. I think it's going back to the question that was asked previously. It will be based on demand, and it'll be working alongside Sarah Wakefield and her team and Adult Services as to where the greatest demand is going to be. This is not going to solve all of our housing problems in Somerset. It's a really small kind of tip of the iceberg, but it is going to make a difference to those that need these houses. And so it's about us, this hopefully being the start of something.
So going forward, will Homes in Somerset be one of the registered social providers that will appear on the 106 lists of registered social landlords that a developer can choose to engage with? Because at the moment you're not.
I'll take it away, but they do already purchase, so they must be on the register somewhere because they put not in your area. We can take that away and work it out, but Somerset Council can purchase because we are doing that in Langport as an example.
Benty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm deeply concerned over this here because I do not want to see any private landlords getting money for then kicking out their existing tenants and then get new ones in that are homeless. I want you to prove to me that this is not going to happen, because people in Shepton Mallet are deeply worried about this here because they are being kicked out. And you cannot waste taxpayers' money on something that are going to harm people that has done no wrong. Can you reassure me that you are never going to go to Shepton East or to Somerset East with this plan here?
I'm really sorry, Bente. I think you've misunderstood the paper. So firstly, this isn't council taxpayers' money. Just need to clarify that, because I always know that there's confusion in the press when it comes to this. This is a separate account that is our HRA, and that's made up from our tenants' rents, and it belongs to kind of the housing revenue account. So it is separate from our general fund in very simple terms. When it comes to what we want to do with this, we want to go out to developers who are building new build properties and look to buy properties mainly from Section 106 agreements of affordable social housing.
Thank you. Sarah Wakefield.
Yeah, I just wanted to support what we're doing here. As councils will know, temporary accommodation is extremely expensive and is growing, and it's not just in Somerset, it's across the country. People are being turned out of their properties and having to find somewhere to live. So this is a really good use of money in the HRA. These houses will belong to the HRA. They won't undermine other people buying houses in Somerset. They are usually surplus to requirement on a development where they perhaps haven't been able to sell them, or they're just not required for the Section 106 or whatever it is. We will buy these houses, we'll use them for temporary accommodation. I think it's only for 2 years. I'm not sure if that was mentioned. And then they go back into the stock for council houses. Now, it doesn't disadvantage the council house tenants as far as I'm concerned. It means that people we're going to have to house anyway, we're going to be housing them in temporary accommodation, which is proper accommodation, as opposed to bed B&B and those sort of accommodations, with the intention of moving them on into proper accommodation or full-time accommodation, longer-term accommodation. But it just means it widens the options we've got for when we've got people who need temporary accommodation. They can go into one of these properties if they're available, instead of having to go into B&B or even sometimes hotels accommodation, which is unsuitable. So I think it's a really good use of funds that they've got available at the moment. As I say, the properties will go into the Home Finder account after they cease to be used by for temporary accommodation. But it's something to try and address this temporary accommodation problem that we've got. And as I say, most councils across the country have got, and I really welcome it, and I think it's a really good use of funds. Now, there's not going to be a lot more money unless we have spare money from council tax, people who are paying their council rents, because as Federica has made clear, the housing revenue account is separate from the council budget. So it's a good idea, I'm happy with it, and I recommend it to all councillors. Thank you.
Diogo.
Thank you, Chair. I did watch back the Scrutiny Committee part of when they discussed this report, and it was quite enjoyable. And I think the officer then said to us, or said to the committee, that we've already got some 20 homes perhaps that are used for this sort of thing anyway, so it's nothing new to the authority, which is good. The proposal to me looks like a good and legitimate use of the underspend for the benefit of the HRA and tenants overall. Because we need to be supporting those needing temporary accommodation. We know that the need for temporary accommodation has been mentioned far outweighs the authority's ability to be able to house them, so anything that we can do to make that easier is good. We know that authorities across the country spend, unfortunately, because they have to, obscene amounts on accommodation, temporary accommodation like Airbnbs and hotels. You know, £100 a night isn't uncommon to authorities across the country. And we've all probably had casework where we've had residents being evicted from private property and having the need for temporary accommodation. And so anything that we can do to help our residents in that sense is a good thing as well. So I know this proposal can make a huge difference to residents that I've had to deal with in terms of temporary accommodation, so I'm very happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you. Susanna Hart.
I think any extra housing for people who find themselves in this situation is obviously a good thing. I just wanted to ask how exactly this is going to work. So I understand it's going to, after a couple of years, go back into stock and be used as normal accommodation. But what are the criteria around how is it going to be temporary? How are you going to just, if someone goes into it and then you haven't got anywhere to move them onto, how is that going to work? What's the period and how's it going to be? What's the period that someone can stay in it as temporary, and how is that going to be managed in terms of where do they go next?
Sarah?
We do have a requirement to try and keep people in temporary accommodation and B&B to 6 weeks or less. I'm not saying that always happens, but that's the aim. So these are meant to be accommodations where you do go for a short period while they, the applicant, and us find them somewhere else. So it's just a stopgap when you become homeless. Often families, sadly this is, who need to go somewhere. So we do a lot of temporary accommodation. Sometimes it goes on longer than normal, but what we will do is be moving on like we do normally. We can't keep people in B&Bs for weeks and weeks, months and months. And that doesn't happen. I mean, there are figures available, and if you want them, we can get them for you. It's not as good as it should be, but this will help with the situation. So people, I mean, the people on the Home Finder register, we've got 12,500 plus, I think, households, they're not all homeless. Some of them are living with parents or they're sofa surfing, some of them are living in accommodation that's going to come to an end. But, obviously, luckily, they don't all get thrown out on the same day. But, there is a movement going on of people. So they do move on. We do find private landlords. We do find other places. Sometimes people move away. There are, people do move on. And we will make it very clear to people this is a temporary place. They may not all move out immediately 2 years is up, but most of them will have moved on by then. So, it's a case-by-case basis that we work on.
Yes, Fed, did you want to add?
I was just going to add to that. So from how it also works is that you don't get a secure tenancy on these properties like you would in your long-term homes. You normally get like a license to occupy, for want of a better phrase. There's probably a better technical term than that. But it is actually, to add, like Sarah has said, I get my inbox has been full of cases, where we have to place people in budget hotels. They don't have cooking facilities. They're trying to look after their children and selves and not having cooking facilities available, as an example, or having to eat out at the Harvester next door. So if you have got an actual house with a kitchen, it is providing a better quality of living facilities, whilst they are then supported by our housing officers to look for then a permanent accommodation.
Alistair Hendry.
Can I just come back or not? Well, just very quickly, obviously to say again, any housing is better, any increase is better than not having an increase. I'm just unsure how this is, or how practical this really will turn out to be. So I just think it'll be interesting to monitor it and see how it works. Thank you.
Okay, Alistair.
Hello, good afternoon. I kind of dispute a little bit what you're saying over there about the term. I actually used to own a big guest house in Burnham-on-Sea. Sorry, am I close enough to this?
Shout.
Sorry, is that better? Yeah.
Shout.
I'm sorry, I've got a very soft Scottish accent, so I'm sorry about that. I kind of dispute a little bit of what you're saying about the length of time there, because I owned a very big guest house in Burnham-on-Sea, and I had a kind of an unwritten contract with Somerset District Council. I used to fill the place all the time with homeless people. And the maximum term was supposed to be 56 days. When the 56 days ended, it would just start again. And we had single people, we had families, we had couples, everything you can think of. And we've had people there for 4 or 5 months at a time. So this whole thing about 6 weeks is actually a non-starter. That's the way it was. Thank you.
Yes, Sarah.
Yes, you're absolutely right. 6 weeks is the aim, but it isn't always what happens in practice. We do our best to find accommodation in a situation where accommodation is shrinking because landlords are giving up doing it for whatever reason. But that doesn't mean we don't find places. We do find places. We work with landlords. We do a lot of work on prevention to stop people actually losing their property or losing their tenancy. Sometimes it's because people need training in how to be a tenant properly. Sometimes it's because the landlord thinks it's not worth it, and we can perhaps point things out, maybe they've changed their mind. But yes, you're absolutely right, we do get people staying longer than that. It's not good enough, but if it's a place that you're describing, to go into a home that we can provide for them, albeit as a temporary situation, would be better and will be better.
Jill Slocum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I haven't got a soft Scottish voice, unfortunately, but you'll hear me. I just want to make a bit of an advert, really, that we are doing adult social care, we're doing a housing task and finish group, and we'd actually decided to do a small group. Maybe if we can know the interest is there and everybody wants to know a lot more, because I'm learning a lot more as well, I think maybe we need to have the task and finish group larger, because I think there's many elements to this that some of us don't actually know the process. We don't understand what umbrella it sits under, and maybe this would be really good. But we are starting small, but we're growing, Chairman. I just wanted to put that advert in. Is that okay? December.
Thank you. Conor Payne.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know how well I can be heard.
Sorry.
Thank you. The only question I have is regarding whether or not there are any safeguards in place to ensure that these purchases prioritise local Somerset families over out-of-county placements.
Fed?
In relation to supporting need, it will be following our standard process that we follow via supporting those who are made homeless within the county.
Thank you. Sue, you wanted to come back in as long as it's a precise.
Yes, I did, because I do support this, and I think there's very good things for it. I did take an interest in housing when I was on South Somerset, and one of the most striking things was the amount of money we spent on temporary accommodation. I think in 1 year it was well over a six-figure sum. Here we're buying an asset which goes on our balance sheet. It's ours. The other thing with temporary accommodation is you are turfed out after breakfast, probably not allowed back in until around tea time. So that means families, young people, whoever, have got to occupy themselves. By having a roof over their heads, that provides those opportunities to work with those families in order to build in stability, get some chaos back into lives, and as you say, give them the confidence that they can hold on to a tenancy and can apply. The other plus is, if we're buying new builds, they shouldn't need any money spent. I don't know why you're laughing at me, Graham, but the other thing is as well, if they're new builds, you're unlikely to need to spend anything on maintenance for about 10 years because they should be guaranteed. So I do support this. And it'll certainly be interesting to see how this works as a pilot and whether there's an opportunity to extend it.
Sarah.
I just wanted to reply to what Connor had said. I just want to make this absolutely clear. We do not have any responsibility to house migrants. The government does that. Right, so we don't, so homeless people in this county who are homeless have to have some connection with the county. If you just turn up on our doorstep and say, I'm homeless, find me a house, we will find out where you come from and put you on a train back to where you've come from. So we don't have a duty as a council to house people who just turn up here and say, I'm homeless. We have a duty to people who are residents of Somerset who live here and need to be housed. So I'm sorry, I thought you were asking the wrong question there.
Connor, do you want to come back?
Yes, I just want to be absolutely clear. I was not alluding to migrants or anything of that nature.
Thank you.
I absolutely wasn't. Thank you.
Bill, did you have your hand up?
I didn't know.
Sorry. Must have been a movement that I detected. Marcus, you have your hand up.
I can't believe I'm speaking at a full council meeting twice in one council meeting. We had a really interesting discussion at Scrutiny about this. It's such a good news story for this council. It's a good news for anybody who made homeless. And I think just for clarity, I think what has come out of this meeting is actually it'd be nice to have a members briefing on how the temporary accommodation system works. Because if you're from Birmingham and you come down here and say I'm homeless, sorry, go and speak to Birmingham Council. That's how it works. But can I suggest or can I propose we move to a vote, please? Because I think everybody seems to be in agreement that this is a fantastic news story, and well done to the team for putting it together.
That's where we're going. Okay. Right, I've just noticed that there's only 4 recommendations and there are 5, so I'm just going to get the other one read out.
Thank you, Chair. So, as a result of the 5th recommendation being introduced by Councillor Smith-Roberts, it will require a proposer and a seconder if you wish to include it today.
Chair,
that
I'll second that.
Forgive me, Chair. I'll complete and we will go through that process. So, the recommendation is to request officers to prepare a business case for executive to consider for further temporary accommodation acquisitions in anticipation of this. In anticipation of this proof of concept being successful.
Thank you. Fed, you're happy to propose, and Tom, happy to second that. So if we vote on that first, can I show of hands, all those in favour? Any against? And any abstentions? That's passed, so we move on now to vote to the whole recommendations that have been put. Again, show of hands, all those in favour? Any against? Okay, and any abstentions? Okay, that's passed. Okay, moving on to item 8, which is the Mendip Local Plan Part 2, Limited Update Adoption. Mike Rigby.
Thank you, Chair. It's very good to be with you belatedly here this afternoon. I apologise to everyone for my lateness, particularly you, Chair. Members may recall, particularly those who perhaps formerly represented Mendip or the Mendip area, that there was a successful High Court challenge via judicial review into the adoption of the Mendip Local Plan Part 2. In that event, the High Court struck down a number of housing allocations, 5 housing allocations, and required the then Mendip District Council to find space for a further 505 dwellings. That was a requirement that was ultimately picked up by Somerset Council as the successor authority, and it undertook a further process and identified space for 569 dwellings, having considered a total of 162 possible sites as part of a further call for sites, a limited call for sites. So we have before us here the recommendation to adopt this update to the second part of the Mendip Local Plan, outlining the areas where those 569 new dwellings would be found. And it's typical that local plans are adopted by full council. So here we are. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I move to Liz Leishon, who is seconded?
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second this. We'll reserve my right to speak, if I may.
Thank you. I'll throw it open. Any questions? Yes, right at the end.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say that I do support the paper, but I supported it in 2019. I started work on this plan in 2007, so I've seen a lot of it. I don't agree with the figures in paragraph 21 because it includes a site in Colford of 63 houses, which is actually proving very, very difficult to get the reserve matters through due to coal mining reports and sewerage problems. Do we have a claim of costs against the planning inspector on this? Because it was the planning inspector that got it wrong, not Mendip District Council. This has cost thousands and thousands of pounds over the years, and not this council's or Mendip Council's fault. I do support it to get it over the line, but I want to make that point. Thank you.
Mike.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your qualified support there, Councillor Ham. And I don't pretend that I'll know a fraction of what you know about this process, having been a Mendip District Councillor. And I thank you for your work on the plan and getting it to this point. I take on board what you're saying about the Colford site, but I don't think that process is over. If it gets to the point where that site does look undeliverable, maybe we'll have to do something to replace it. But I take your points on that. And sorry, what was your second question? Remind me. The costs, yes, the costs. Now I'm going to have to defer to I think our lawyer to see if there's any possibility of a case there. I'm not aware that we're currently seeking costs from the planning inspectorate, but it's a fair question and one I don't have an immediate answer to.
Kehendi, would you like to comment?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Unfortunately, we're not in a position to claim costs from the inspectorate.
Okay. Diogo.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to say, really, noted in the report that all members in Somerset East have been consulted and engaged throughout the process, which is good. But just to say that I will probably be abstaining on this one because I know nothing about the Mendip local plan, and not being a member of old Mendip District Council or Somerset East, I don't feel like I'm qualified to vote on it, so I will abstain, and others may feel the same way, I don't know.
Okay, thank you. No more hands. Liz, do you wish to?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I'll not pretend that I have anywhere near as much experience as Councillor Ham, but I did attend all the workshops where we gave very careful consideration to every one of the sites that came forward in the call for sites. And so with that knowledge and with my sincere desire that we get this across the line, I'm very happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, Mike, if you do not wish to add anything, we'll move to the vote. Okay, the recommendations are set out on page 94. Could I have a show of hands, all those in favour? Any against? And abstentions? Okay, so that is carried. Thank you. We move on to item 9, which is the scrutiny function review, final report and recommendation. Stephen Pugsley, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It is my privilege as the Chair of Scrutiny Committee Corporate and Resources to introduce and reflect on the important work undertaken through the Scrutiny Review, which was formally approved by the Scrutiny Corporate and Resources Committee on the 27th of August. This review marks a significant milestone in our collective ambition to strengthen the effectiveness, transparency and impact of scrutiny across Somerset Council. It has been a thorough and collaborative process led by a cross-party working group of 10 members supported by the Centre for Governance and Scrutiny, with contributions from members, officers and external partners, and which met on numerous occasions over the course of many months. At the heart of this review is a shared commitment to ensuring that scrutiny is not only robust and independent, but also constructive, inclusive and forward-looking. Accordingly, the working group has developed 11 interconnected recommendations which are set out in Annex 1. The recommendations are focused on 3 themes: culture, ways of working and impact. So if I may take them in order. Firstly, our scrutiny culture. We are looking to embed a culture of scrutiny that is owned by everyone. This includes a renewed emphasis on training and development for members and officers, and a clear articulation of the value scrutiny brings to decision-making throughout the authority. Secondly, information and ways of working. We are proposing that how we work scrutiny is improved and supported with dedicated officer resources, clearer roles and better access to information. We're also proposing a rebalancing of our committee structure, moving from 5 to 4 scrutiny committees from May 2026 to allow for more focused and impactful work. You will note in the appendices the proposed portfolios for the new committees, and I would urge members to have regard in the first instance to the high-level portfolio document on page 199, rather than perhaps the subsequent one listing the individual service areas where there might appear at first sight to be something of an imbalance. So page 199 is the key document. Thirdly, making an impact. Scrutiny must drive change. We are introducing SMART recommendations, tracking implementation, and ensuring our annual reports reflect the difference scrutiny can make to our communities. We need to ensure that scrutiny reclaims its established purpose of overview and thus makes a renewed contribution to policy development. So it becomes significantly proactive rather than just, as has been the case perhaps in recent years, largely reactive. So this is not a technical exercise of simply procedural change. It is a transformation of how we improve our scrutiny function, strengthening how we hold the executive to account, but also how we better involve the public in scrutiny work and how we can influence policy development and service delivery changes for the future. However, we are mindful that these changes need to be monitored and be capable of adjustment if necessary. And accordingly, we are recommending that a review of the new arrangements takes place in early 2027. Finally, I would like to thank all of those who contributed to this review, particularly the working group, the chairs and vice chairs of our 5 scrutiny committees, and the officers who supported the review. In moving forward, we do so with the conviction that scrutiny plays a vital role in delivering better outcomes for this authority and the residents of Somerset, and that these proposals will strengthen it and fit it for the years to come. I commend the review to Council for approval and move the recommendations on page 166 of the agenda.
Thank you, Stephen. Can I move to Lee Redmond, please, who's seconding the proposal?
Happy to second, Chair, and reserve my right to speak at the end. Thank you.
Okay, Henry Hobhouse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was a member of the working group. I have a number of things that I want to point out that were discussed at length in the working group and I think are very important. The first is we have got to stop taking, and I'm going to give you 2 examples, one is planning and one is parking, that were taken to the wrong scrutiny committee this year due to insufficient planning in advance on what was going to go through the executive board. We have got to give the scrutiny committees a chance to specialise in the areas that they are supposed to be used for. The second point I want to make is that if you have a workload, you don't need to have a guaranteed 6-week timetable between scrutiny committees. You may need to have a 4-week one or an 8-week one. And this recommendation allows us to change the dates of the meetings so that we can deal with subjects as they come up. And that is one thing that has not happened in the past. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Dave Mansell.
Thank you, Chair. I too was a member of this working group, and it was a good experience, well chaired, and I do think we've ended up with a good report and good set of recommendations. It has to be, I think, noted that it was in part prompted by deficiencies we've been seeing in how at least some of the scrutiny committees have been functioning at the new council. But what is proposed here should lead to a strengthening and improvement of scrutiny work. I do have reservations on one point which I wish to mention, and that is the rebalancing of the committees from 5 to 4. I do think that the committee, which in effect largely merges the current climate and place and communities committee, the new one that would replace those, has got a very large agenda. It's already been very difficult for climate and place to keep on top of its current agenda, and that does cause me some concern. I have mentioned that we did discuss it, and I accept the discussion and so the points that have led us to that. Although, as you've gathered, still have concerns on that particular outcome. But there are lots of good features in what is recommended, and just really quickly, recommendation 3, the scrutiny protocol, 4, reviewing the level of corporate and service support for scrutiny function, and the recommendations there are very important to allowing scrutiny to work better at the council, so I trust will be fully followed through on. As already referred to, recommendation 5, that there will be a shift so scrutiny routinely undertakes policy development, direction setting and service reviews. Again, very important. And then just finally, recommendation 6 on the work planning processes for scrutiny. So we are looking much more in advance at what we're doing and dovetailing in with the executive, which clearly is absolutely vital as well. And we wish to add value to decisions that are being taken by the council. So on balance, I am happy to support the recommendations that have emerged, and trust they will be fully and well implemented, and I do believe it will lead to better scrutiny to the benefit of Somerset Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Federica.
Thank you, Chair, and it's really great to see this report come forward, and I want to apologise if I've missed emails whilst I was on holiday in France in August while this was happening. I just noted that the HRA is moving outside of the community's scrutiny, so I would ask for that to be reconsidered in the recommendations. At the moment, community sits very nicely all together. The HRA sits under the Director of Climate and Place, as well as myself, as my very long title in communities. So it would be good for that to be reconsidered rather than it sit within the adults scrutiny committee.
Is that something that needs to go back to you, Stephen?
I think that we should be able to approve the recommendations, but with the flexibility to be able to continue to look at the way the portfolios sit. I think as long as we've got the overall committee structure in place, the precise placement of the functions is still open to flexible negotiation. So I think we can take on board what Councillor Smith-Roberts is saying.
Okay, thank you. Gwyl Wren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Although I'm a scrutiny chair, I wasn't on the Task and Finish group, but the scrutiny chairs do meet on a regular basis, and this, as you can imagine, has been a topic of conversation at our meetings. Yes, there has been a little bit of concern raised about the contraction of 5 to 4 and the increasing coverage, particularly in the place and communities one. So I think the overall view is that we need to do this anyway, but in order to make it work, we have to be a lot sharper. And so, as Councillor Hobhouse has referred to, I think the scrutiny committees, and particularly the chairs, need to be much better informed or much better sighted on what's coming forward. And certainly I think we should have access to the departmental commissioning plans, which are generally prepared as part of the budget setting at this time of the year. These will be looking forward into the following year's work, so you'll be able to see what's business as usual, what's being potentially dropped, and what new stuff is coming in. And it'll give you a fairly good steer, I think, or give chairs and committees a fairly good steer on where they need to be looking. We need to, I think, have better links with the political leadership, particularly the executive, and I would suggest that we have sort of informal meetings with them, because I think we need to pick their brains as to find out where they're going. And equally, I think that counts for the senior leadership team as well. I think we need to have better links through there. On a more prosaic note, I think we could all do, certainly from my committee, we could do with less reports which are just sent through to note. And so therefore, I was going to suggest that we have something called a proposal sheet, so that all ideas that want to be sent to scrutiny do actually have a proposal sheet beforehand that sets out the purpose of it and what needs to be scrutinised, so that the chair and the vice chair can at least make a judgment as to whether it's worthwhile bringing it to committee or potentially sending it to an all-councillor briefing, for example. We also, I think, and the last 2 points I have are we need to make sure that this new arrangement is thoroughly supported by democratic services. If we do not have the administrative support to run these committees properly, then they will not work. So I plead we do need to make sure that they are properly resourced. And back to the original question about the capacity of the committees and democratic services vis-à-vis the workload that may or may not come their way, I think we need to keep that under thorough review. And as Councillor Pugsley has just said, I think we should be in a position to, in advance of the formal review in 18 months' time or whenever it is, at least monitor the situation and be prepared to respond and react to anything that perhaps isn't going as well as we would anticipate at this point. Thank you.
Alan Bradford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I should be abstaining on this, and why I'm being so awkward. First of all, I want to thank everybody at the committee to reorganise this from 5 down to 4, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm on the Climate in Place for the last couple of years, and that's the only place that agriculture is recognised. We live in a very rural county, or perhaps you've all forgot. You all drive through green fields, ploughed fields and what have you, and you don't realise the issues and problems that attracts one place to the other. Well, I think the climate in place was the only scrutiny committee that brought out some of these things. You've got solar farms being built everywhere. You're going to have a lot more land go to for digesters, etc., within the next 12, 15 months because of the economics of British farming. That's how it is. And really, you all got to think, you do live in a rural county, and it's all forgotten, and the farmers are really forgotten. Because a lot of little guys feel totally forgotten in agriculture at the moment, and forget them at your peril, because when it goes in the hands of bigger areas, then it's going to change tremendous. So I'm going to abstain from this. I'm sorry to be awkward, but I got on where my heart lies, and that's protecting some of the rural things in Somerset. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Alan. Sue Osborne.
Thank you, Chairman. I, like some of my other colleagues, also sat on this cross-party working group, and I think it was perhaps one of the most challenging working groups we've possibly had to sit on. We covered a lot of areas, a lot of material in a very short period of time. I'm happy to support the report. In fact, I'm delighted to support the report and think that it should meet the needs. For those that do have concerns, there are proposals that it would be reviewed in January, February 2027. So it has 12 months to bed in. So if there is room for improvement or something isn't quite working, there is a provision there to sort that out. But finally, and most importantly, I'd like to pay tribute to Stephen Pugsley, who chaired this. At times, for Stephen, it must have felt like herding cats. 10 very strong characters in a room discussing something that actually does generate very strong opinions. Stephen was a diplomat, he was consummate, he knew where to steer, he knew where to push, he knew where to pull back. And I think without Stephen's wise counsel, diplomatic chairing, and his focus on the task in hand and the objectives, I don't think we would have got where we have today with this report. So I'd like to thank Stephen for providing an absolute masterclass in how to chair a scrutiny task and finish, and also as well for delivering this report, which I am happy to vote for. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, Mandy Chilcott.
Thank you very much. I wasn't on the working group. I'm sorry it was like herding cats. I've obviously missed some interesting meetings. But just to say, I'm an absolute advocate for scrutiny in the council. It's really key. But for me, there's going to need to be quite a big culture shift to get to this point. We've had scrutiny working groups and pieces of work before, and it is not rolled forward in the way that it should do. So first thing I would do is I would ban immediately items to note. There's no place for them on the meeting agenda. They can go out to all councillors in all sorts of ways. You almost need to get to the stage where you've got single item agendas, where you have one substantive item that can be thoroughly investigated and looked into. I'm not sure that will happen when I'm reading the report today. I hope it does. There's not a huge amount on procurement and contracts, and that for me is a huge area we haven't really tapped into. And for that, you need to get downstream probably 12 to 18 months minimum to really have meaningful impact. So I really hope that that's something that will happen. And I mean, if you look at our procurement and contracts, they will know 2, 3, 4 years ahead what's coming and which the major ones are. So I hope there's some work on that. Culture shift wise as well, for me, effort in makes results out, and the more effort that's put in and the more work that's put in, I think the better results you will have. But it's also that commitment from senior directors at directors level in this authority. If the buy-in's at that level, then I think that it will flow through the organisation with other staff getting involved and hopefully getting engaged and inspired by it.
And just to say, I disagree with changing times and dates with my colleague across the way. We've got many in this chamber that work. We've got many that book holidays to make sure they can get meetings in the diary. And I think to start chopping and changing dates around, I think for some can be very difficult. I understand the sentiment, but I think in practical terms for many here, that would make life really tricky. And to make really effective scrutiny, you need people who consistently are at it, consistently passionate about it, and if they can't make meetings, I don't think that will help the strength of the committees moving forward. So sorry to disagree on that one, but disagree I do, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Diogo.
Thank you, Chair. I fully support the document, and thank you to Chair of that committee and everyone that took part, really. Just one sort of concern, just for clarity, I suppose, for someone to provide, is that there's much to do in the next 6 months, having looked at Appendix D, the action plan. So I'm just wondering, capacity has been mentioned, but I'm wondering about capacity over the next 6 months to deliver that action plan, as well as conducting the current scrutiny committees in the current way. Do we have the capacity to do all of that in these 6 months, or is there a risk that some focus and resource could be diverted away from those scrutiny committees?
Again, just to provide reassurance to all members, certainly in terms of any decision by Council today, then yes, resources will be prioritised in order to support not just the changes that are proposed, but obviously to continue the good work of the existing 5 committees.
Thank you. The final name I've got is Jill Slocum.
Thank you, Chairman. It's good of you to remember. Thank you. I sat on the working group as well, and I think I was quite well behaved. Stephen did an excellent job. But I would say one thing, like any working group, it shows you what does work well, and it shows you what's not working well. And I think that's a really good point, that actually some of them were doing well and they had good support, some were not. So I think out of that, a lot of good will come. And we will go forward and multiply, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Before we move to the vote, Lee, do you want to add anything?
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure whether I can follow the previous speaker. However, I welcome the comments from fellow members. I wasn't going to try and answer all of the points that were raised, but just to hit a couple off in the first instance, I support 100% Councillor Osborne's comments in relation to the chair's skill and ability for this panel, it was a privilege to serve on it. So there's that one. Just a couple of quick points, really. I think this is what I'm on the subject of items to note. Many of the members in this room will know my belief in that, and I'll just reiterate it now. It's every chair's ability to decide what comes and doesn't come to their meeting. I'm reasonably confident that the Director of Children's Services sat opposite me knows full well that if an item comes to my committee meeting to note, I'll say, that's fine, send it by email. And that's why specifically in my meetings, there is an item at the end to cover items that are circulated during, well, between meetings. That's an important point. There shouldn't be, I agree, we shouldn't have anything, but don't have anything to note. It's that simple. Just to respond to Councillor Bradford's comments, I think it's important to say that in the reshuffle or redesign, whatever you want, we're not taking away any of the functions. What we're actually doing is proposing a more effective, hopefully, way to organise them. And just for clarity, and I had this message well, the new Scrutiny Committee for Climate, Environment and Place will still be able to have a focus on Somerset's agriculture and rich natural diversity. It's an important thing that we need to be doing, and that's an important part of our council and our culture. So I hope that I can assure Alan that we will do it, and I would hope that we're able to support the proposals. So Just in summary, Chair, scrutiny is only as good as the level of commitment from executive and senior officers. I've been here before. We've had proposals to improve scrutiny before. My first ask is that these recommendations are implemented in line with or sooner than the timeline in the proposal. Just to highlight a quick point, recommendation 4, and I think this is one of the most important elements. It includes the sentence, the council needs to review the level of corporate and service support for its scrutiny function. It also includes that dedicated and sufficient scrutiny officers are provided from democratic services. My ask is, let's get it resourced, and if we're going to do a review, let's not take too long about it. We don't need to take too long in this review. Let's put our limited money where our mouth is. It will be worth it. Good scrutiny gives good value. Chair, I support this motion. Happy to second it.
Thank you. Stephen, the final words rest with you.
Could I just emphasise something that Councillor Redmond has said about the importance of the individual functions within the rebalanced portfolios? The whole point is that we are going to hopefully see a more significant and more highly valued scrutiny, and therefore the items that we deal with will have even more weight and heft as a result. So I hope that Councillor Bradford and others would be reassured by the added importance that those subjects close to their heart will have under this rebalance system.
Thank you. Right, the recommendations on page 166 have been put and seconded. Can I see a show of hands, all those in favour? Any against? And any abstentions? 2, 3. Okay, that's carried. I'd like to just take item 10 before we have a break. So it's the report of the monitoring officer. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm conscious of time, so I'll be incredibly brief. This report speaks for itself. As we heard earlier today in the tributes, we need to now ensure that there is sufficient chairmanship of the Planning East Committee, and this report deals with that particular issue. In addition, we also need to receive nominations for Vice Chair at the same time. Thank you, Chair.
Bill.
Thank you very much. It is my delight and pleasure to propose that Councillor Ros Wyke be the new Chair of the Planning East Committee, and to receive a nomination of Councillor Tony Robbins as Vice Chair of that committee, please.
Okay, that moves to Mike Rigby. I believe we've got to take item recommendation 1 first and then move on to the second.
Yeah, absolutely. I've nothing further to add, Chair.
Okay, we're looking originally at recommendation 1, which is for Ros Wyke to be Chair. Can I see a show of hands, all those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Okay, that's carried. So we've already heard the proposed nominations been put forward for Tony Robbins. Are there any further recommendations for Vice Chair? Yes, I see a hand up at the end.
Thank you, Chair. As a member of one of the member councillors and also a member of Planning East Committee, I would like to propose Susanna Hart for the Vice Chair on the grounds she's from the same area as Nick, knows his area well, and is fully conversant with what we're trying to do in that area. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Possibly the Vice Chair would have benefited from discussion in advance, which doesn't appear to have occurred. I know there is other interest in being the Vice Chair. I would like to propose Councillor Helen Kay as the Vice Chair of this committee, please.
Right. Right. Who? Sorry. We need seconds for both of those. So if we start with the one at the far end. Yes, Philip. Okay. So you, Susanna Hart.
Second. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, could the gentleman next to you, I've can't see. It's Barry, yeah. Who were you proposing? Susanna Hart. So we have enough votes. So now we have to move to a vote between Susanna Hart. Oh, Shane Collins. Okay.
Councillor Kay.
Okay, well, we need to take a vote now of all three candidates that have come forward. Sorry?
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. I believe it's a proposal and then 2 amendments to the proposal that we're voting on, not a vote on the 3 candidates.
Yeah, Sue, then Henry.
Chairman, it has been pointed out to me that previously at planning committees, particularly Area East, that the chair and vice chair were from different parties. And in this case, Susie would meet that criteria in that you have a Liberal Democrat chairman, which you've just agreed and voted on, and then you would have a member from the second largest group, which I believe in this case is the Conservatives, hence why Susie would fit the bill. And that is in no disrespect to Helen at all, who I do hold in very high regard.
I believe that is not relevant in this case because it's not a set-down regulation. Can I go over to Henry? You had your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just checking that I think it should be only the Area East Planning Committee members that are voting for their own chair.
No, I've been informed that that is not the case.
For clarity to council, it's a council appointment.
So it is a council appointment. Yes, Mike Rigby.
Thanks. I was a little confused as to who was standing for what. So to be clear, is it that Susie is standing to be chair and Helen is vice? They're both vice chairs?
It's all vice chair. The
Right,
three
okay.
candidates are vice chairman.
Thank you.
Peter.
Chairman, just a point of advice needed from the monitoring officer. I'm not sure how these could be amendments tabled at this meeting, since they both have the same effect as voting down the proposal, i.e. they're a defeat, so they wouldn't be legitimate as amendments.
Chair, if I may, through you, in effect, council are considering the second recommendation. So recommendations for the vice chair position to this committee.
Okay, I've been advised that we take nominations on this second recommendation, and that I have to go with the advice. Tony Locke?
I mean, surely it's the same as all the other chairs and the vice chairs. They are made by the respective committees, not full council.
No, as you just heard from the monitoring officer, this is a full council appointment, so we have to take it through full council.
Since when?
Yeah, go on.
Can I just add that the council was asked for nominations and they gave nominations. That's where we are.
Yes, go on.
Thank you. It's just that on Planning South, recently we had a change in the chairmanship, and I don't remember that coming to full council. So how did that work?
I'm informed that came through the May council meeting. Okay, right. To move this along, rather than go around in circles, we have 3 nominations that have all been proposed and seconded, so we have to vote. So if we take a show of hands on each of the candidates, a show of hands on Tony Robbins, please. Okay, put your hands down. Right, a show of hands, please, for Helen Kay. And finally, for Susanna Hart. Right, Scott, can you declare the results, please?
So votes are reporting as Councillor Robbins, 43, Councillor Hart, 21, Councillor Kay, 10. Therefore, Councillor Robbins is appointed as the Vice Chair of the Planning East Committee.
Okay.
Chair, point of order before you move to the break.
Yes, go on.
Can I beg your indulgence, please? I have to go and pick my grandson up, and I've just got a... can we do agenda item 12 just very quickly? I literally have 2 paragraphs to say, and as long as there are no questions, you can get to your break.
Yes, please. I'm sure they will indulge you. So item 12, please.
Chair, thank you. This is the report of the annual report of the Children and Families Scrutiny Committee. Chair, this has been a year of significant challenge and meaningful progress. As Chair, I am proud of the dedication and collaborative spirit shown by committee members, officers and partners. Looking forward, we will maintain our challenge, including the ongoing SEN reforms and white paper when it's announced. We must work to ensure DMP's success. I want to thank fellow committee members, committee officers, council officers, and especially the children and young people and families who have engaged with our work this year. Their voices are the heart and rightly of everything we do. Thank you, Chair.
Any questions for Lee? Yep. Heather, yes, sorry.
Forgive me, I'll keep this short and sweet as well. I should do more of this, but I'm conscious of everyone wanting to get away, including Lee. I would just like to thank Lee for his unerring professionalism, his unerring care for children, and for him really raising the game for all the people on scrutiny. And he acts as a fantastic conscience to me, a kind of a Jiminy Cricket, and I think that's marvellous to me and the team. So, and I'm not making light of that. I really do appreciate everything that he's done and the committee members. And long may it continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Right, thank you for your indulgence. 20-minute break, 20 to 4. Please be back in your seats. If we continue, item 11, this is the motions, and the first motion is, I would like to call Habib to introduce. 3 minutes you have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, colleagues, and fellow citizens. For over 40 years, successive governments have failed to deliver affordable and social housing, and our communities are paying the price. Since 1980, more than 2 million social homes have been sold and never replaced. During austerity, government investment in affordable housing was cut by 60%, leaving councils unable to build. Today, 1.3 million households are on waiting list, and 165,000 children are growing up in temporary accommodation. Home ownership among young people has halved in the last 35 years, and families renting privately spend over 30% of their income on rent. And still, 15% of our households live in poor quality or unsafe housing. Let us also be clear. This crisis is not caused by immigration. Successive governments have actively invited overseas workers, particularly in the NHS and care sectors, because we need them. The problem is not those who care for our sick and elderly, it is a failure to deliver housing at scale. Here in Somerset, the impact is visible every day. Families priced out of their communities, key workers unable to work and live near their jobs, and stalled development blocked by planning backlogs and under-resourced departments. This motion recognizes that we cannot fix the crisis alone, but we can lead. We call on the government to back a decade of renewal in housing built on 5 steps pledged. Alongside these 5 steps, this motion demands reform of right to buy, so every home sold is replaced one for one. Fast-tracking affordable housing applications, using public land for homes local families can afford, and making sure new homes are sustainable, energy efficient, and low cost to live in. Colleagues, this is about more than conventional construction materials. It's about dignity, stability, and the future of our communities. If we act with ambition, Somerset can show what is possible, that every family deserves the security of a decent, affordable, and sustainable home. Please support this motion and give a message to central government that we are ready to deliver roofs over people's head. Are they ready to fulfill their commitments by providing us the necessary funding? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Habib. Henry, you're seconding this. Do you wish to speak now or at the end?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wish to speak at the end.
Thank you. Okay, we move now on to the speakers. We have got Helen Kay.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I very much welcome this motion. I support it in principle. Of course, we need to get building affordable homes. And we need to get on the front foot so that we get the tools from government to deliver these homes. I also like the idea that it's a long-term plan for affordable housing, and it's looking at the problem systemically, what's we need to change in the system. If it were a green motion, which it isn't, I would have said let's get rid of right to buy completely, but I like the idea of one in, one out on the right to buy. There's also a few other very small things. I like number 3, which is to give locally elected councillors who know their area best the power and ability to make amendment suggestions to planning applications so as to approve proposed developments to meet local needs. I don't think that's part of the government scheme, but I think it's a good idea. We need to make sure that local councillors are consulted before we come up with plans about where we're going to put affordable housing. We have to be careful how we do that, because so that the local councillors that are on planning committees are not predetermined, but it's a good idea to involve local councillors. Of course, we want to prioritise brownfield development. And number 5, investing in social affordable housing, including rent to buy, shared ownership, etc. It would be great to have community land trusts in there. The good thing about local community land trusts is that usually the houses will be rented in perpetuity and they won't be subject to right to buy. So I'd like to see that in there, but it doesn't exclude that. So I'm just by default assuming that it does include that. And likewise, I'm hoping that we've got number 6, support mixed income tenure device communities, that also includes, for example, different ways of building houses like co-housing, where you get older people and families living in close proximity to each other and supporting each other, rather than the very privatised, detached housing that the volume builders give us.
On the time scale, can you wind down,
and that's all I wanted to say, really. I mean, in principle, they're just some small things, but I think they're just, by default, we are very much supportive of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Lucy Trimnell.
Thank you, Chair. So it's difficult to know where to begin with this motion because there's so much information and far too short a debate to really understand it. I think it's worth pointing out that we share obvious aims when it comes to the delivery of affordable housing and recognise the need to improve on this. So it's good to see that the party running the council are looking into this. It's worth pointing out that our housing teams are working incredibly hard at the moment. They're currently undergoing a programme of work to improve all aspects of housing and delivery within the difficulties and complexities of the various systems, as well as the soon anticipated changes to housing policy. With this in mind, as well as the recent bringing together of adults and housing, I've written in the last month to the Service Director for Housing, Kirsty Larkins, and Director of Adult Services, Housing and Homelessness, Mel Locke, with a proposal for a task and finish group reporting to Adults and Health Scrutiny to look into many of these issues. I hope that we can unpick the different elements of affordable and social housing with a view to understanding the process of delivery and what councillors can do to support our housing team, ensuring that we as a council can deliver for our residents and hopefully begin to reduce the numbers of people waiting for housing. I want the Task and Finish Group to establish what's within our remit to improve housing delivery, including discussion on how we can lobby government for support where it can be useful in meeting our aims. I want us to investigate wider planning difficulties which affect delivery and see how we can manage applications which enable social housing delivery and ensure they are both deliverable and deliver. This motion contains too many demands and reads rather more like a manifesto than a motion. The policy style content and financial demands of the government are highly unlikely to be met, are extensive, and at times seem to direct the government to change national policy at the behest of Somerset. As a result of the excessive asks in this motion, although I agree with the need to find ways to improve delivery of affordable and social housing, I do not believe this motion is the correct vehicle to achieve this, and as there is a task and finish exercise to be covering this matter soon, I will be abstaining on the vote in this motion.
Thank you. Federica.
Thank you, Chair. I rise in support of this motion, and it would be remiss of me if I actually didn't take the opportunity to reflect on the progress Somerset Council has made already in delivering housing across our county. In a time of national housing pressures, we have not only stepped up, but we've led. In particular, when we talk about the HRA, since the formation of the Unitary Authority, we've made housing delivery a strategic priority. We currently manage over the 10,000 homes, 6,000 directly through the in-house team and 4,000 via Homes in Somerset. These homes stretch from Minehead to Taunton to Bridgewater to Cheddar, serving a wide range of communities and housing needs. While we don't yet have stock in place, like in places like Frome or Yeovil, we have clear ambitions, as we saw in the previous discussion, to expand our reach across Somerset, ensuring more residents benefit from safe, secure and affordable council housing. Our 30-year HRA business plan sets out a bold capital programme with millions committed over the next 5 years. We're already seeing the impact of this investment through key developments. The regeneration of Woolaway Homes in North Taunton, which is transforming outdated stock into high-quality, energy-efficiency housing. The delivery of new homes at Seaward Way and Minehead, which is a once-in-a-generation, or homes-in-a-generation, affordable accommodation, and such as the completion of Penlee House coming on soon in Bridgewater, offering modern, high-quality housing that meets local need. As per the previous item, now we've got another 15 properties coming on board that will help support vulnerable and individual families as they go through one of the most stressful periods of their life. Looking ahead, Somerset Council remains committed to delivering high-quality, affordable homes, but we cannot do it alone. As this motion says, we must call on the government to match our ambition with sustained funding, policy stability and planning reform. Somerset Council is already delivering on many of these ambitions that are set out in this motion. We're ready to go further, but we need the tools, funding and partnership to do so.
Thank you. Well done. Well done to everybody that's keeping within the 2 minutes. Martin Well, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm sure that all right-minded councillors would support this motion in respect of the main principle. That is, sending a letter to the Housing Minister as set out in paragraph 2 of our papers, and apart from the last sentence, which reads, the government needs to. A very strange, I think, use of motion words to direct at the government. Anyway, everything after that sentence shouldn't be directed to the government within this letter, as it conflicts and weakens the purpose of the letter and appears to be suggesting in part that failings of certain statutory functions may need government intervention. Points 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 refer either to planning laws and principles or are arranged through the local plan. Now, we all know that shortly the new infrastructure bill is going to affect planning greatly, and we have to wait and see how that will affect things. And also, of course, work has started on the local plan. All these points should go into that discussion, in my view. Point 8 is a mixture of government, Somerset Council and any other local authorities which the proposer could find. By including these points, aren't we admitting that we cannot deal with our statutory duties and responsibilities and therefore need to call the government in to take them over? I think not. I certainly think not. To me, after the first two paragraphs, the rest of this motion appears in some ways like a wish list for councillors frustrated by the inadequacies of the local plans and a planning system which struggles to recover from COVID, phosphate and vesting. As I say, I'd like to support this. I really agree with the principle of this motion, but with those points in which aren't relevant to the application for housing funds, I think we would be mistaken to submit a letter to a government office with those matters in it. Or perhaps, if you...
Can we wind up, please?
Yeah, perhaps those parts of this motion should include a few photographs, and then we could perhaps push them through doors in forthcoming elections. Thank you.
Fran Smith.
Thank you. I speak to this to support the intention of this motion, but specifically the request to write to the MHCLG to support the delivery of more homes for Somerset. This motion has a very broad ask, as mentioned previously, and I would like to emphasise and celebrate the work that our affordable housing team carrying out working with developers in this area. The work our development team have done bringing forward all the new homes that have been built to low and zero carbon. Councillor Smith-Roberts mentioned the Seaward Way development and also the regeneration project in North Taunton. And also the redevelopment work, as I mentioned, in North Taunton. Much of this continued through the difficult COVID years. To celebrate our affordable housing team working with our partner developers, bringing forward even more homes is also to be, as I said, celebrated. I do not want any of us to underestimate what has gone before and is currently happening, but hope that the letter will lead to further homes for Somerset, building on the work that has already taken place.
Thank you. John Bailey.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome and support this motion and thank everybody who's been involved in producing it. However, I'd like to see this not just as a letter, but the start of a campaign. And therefore, I'd like to see an action plan supporting this, which shows how this council will take forward this campaign to actually achieve its ends as they are, and build on the work we're doing locally, as well as the changes that this motion asks for nationally. It doesn't include my wish, if I was king, that if all developers had not used the land within 6 months, it would be taken back into public ownership. I'm not opposed to that as an amendment, by the way. But I do think we need to see this as the start of a campaign, and I'm sure if I was to speak to the residents of Martock, they would expect to see this followed up and to see where it goes next. And I look forward to seeing that either through one of the scrutiny committees or through another format. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, following the rules of the debate, the seventh speaker is Diego, but Diego gets 15 minutes and not the 2 because he's a leader of the opposition, and that is in the Constitution.
Chairman, everyone will breathe a sigh of relief because I won't take 15 minutes to say what I need to say. But I may be tempted if I'm interrupted, so do consider that. Councillor Trimnall and Councillor Whale have made some very good points. I've got some thoughts as well, really. Are we voting for a motion that says it supports affordable and social housing only for some councillors to probably reject it when it comes forward in planning applications? We know time and time again we see applications come before planning committees with an affordable housing element and councillors campaign or vote against them. We've also seen developers raise viability concerns, and one of the first things that gets cut back is often the number of affordable of social homes in those developments. Too often, councillors of all sides, Lib Dems included, have voted for those reductions. So the average resident could well see that as contradictory. I do wonder, and perhaps there's a figure out there that we can find out in the future, how many affordable homes would we have in Somerset had those affordable units not been voted down or watered down in committees? I absolutely support asking government for more funding for housing. In fact, Council will remember that Lucy brought forward a motion covering this very point back in May, which was sadly defeated, though we're glad that the Lib Dems now agree with us on that point. So on principle, we're on the same page. Indeed, we've just earlier today supported the purchase of additional homes for temporary accommodation. But the specific asks in this motion, after paragraph 2, should really come after we've done the work locally through a task and finish group, so we can unite around a credible local evidence-based case as one council. That's why I think the right way forward on this is the task and finish group, which Lucy's already started setting up way before this motion came forward. It will bring in the experts, take evidence, and give councillors the chance for a proper, informed discussion with relevant officers present. Its findings can then go to the executive or the relevant committees, giving this issue the full weight of the council's authority and making sure our position is grounded in local evidence. I think this motion tries to cover far too much. Housing is a huge subject. It's only notable, we can note that in the discussions we've had today, and I think the sheer length of this motion too shows it. I think to try and deal with all of the points in this motion in a 15-minute debate isn't serious, and it's a shame, in my opinion, that it's come forward in this way. And as Councillor Wale has quite well mentioned, much of the content of this motion refers to what we can do with our local plan and within our own remit. So I think I'll agree with everyone in this room, or we all agree that these are really important issues for Somerset's future, but they need to be worked through carefully and properly through the council's processes, not just a handful of speakers in this debate. To be clear, I absolutely support requesting government for more funding for housing, and just as we Conservatives asked for in May and full council. But the various requests of government requires going through a more thorough process first, and for those reasons, I will abstain on this vote.
Thank you. Right, that concludes the 15 minutes. And just to review on the last comments, the changes in how motions are dealt with did go through the committee and were voted for in May. So really, if any changes or reviews, it would have to go through the process, and I'm only following out the layout that I now have. Okay, we're now moving back to the seconder, which is Henry Hobhouse. Following Henry's 3 minutes, we will then move to the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We all know the evidence. The shortage of affordable and social housing is not accidental. It is the direct result of years of underinvestment, poorly designed policies, including nutrient neutrality, and a planning system that too often frustrates delivery. But if we act, and if the government listens, we can turn this round. Other countries have shown that long-term investment in affordable housing pays dividend in stability, in health, in local communities, economies. And crucially, the social homes we build must be sustainable in two ways. Sustainable to live in, energy efficient, reducing household bill and cutting carbon emissions. Sustainable to build using modern and efficient methods of construction. The British Retail Consortium and the Federation of Small Businesses and the Centre for Retail Research have all warned that unaffordable housing and high fixed costs are undermining the very fabric of our town centres. Affordable and sustainable homes are not just social good, they are an economic necessity. Colleagues, this is our moment to stand up and say clearly, we cannot regenerate our communities We cannot support our workforces. We cannot build a fair Somerset unless we fix housing. Somebody earlier mentioned COVID. That has not been the problem for the last 5 years. To fix affordable housing, we need to drop nutrient neutrality, as the developer can go to the district valuer if they're not making a 15% profit, as brought in by the Conservative government, to remove affordable housing from the 106 agreement. Every one person in this room has had that happen to them in their division. In my case, it's £500,000 of affordable housing. Let us adapt this agreement, speak with one voice, and press the government for powers and resources we need. It is no good the government saying to us that we need a 5-year land supply, because if we can't get it through because the developers aren't allowing us to, it leaves us in a very bad position. Because every family in Somerset deserves the dignity of a decent and affordable and sustainable home. And I just remind people there are 12,000 people on our waiting list. Thank you. Can I have a name vote, please, Mr. Chairman?
Right, for a name vote, we need 10 members to stand so that we can take their names. Okay, please be seated. Okay, we go to a name vote. And back to you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Ashton. Councillor Bailey. Councillor Baker. Councillor Jason Baker. Councillor Barr. Councillor Best.
4.
Councillor Bolt. Councillor Boyden. Councillor Bradford.
Has he gone?
Councillor Bruce. Councillor Burt. Councillor Butt Phillip. Councillor Carswell. Councillor Mike Caswell. Councillor Chilcott.
Abstain.
Councillor Clark. Councillor Nicola Clark. Councillor Clayton.
Abstain.
Councillor Simon Coles. Councillor Shane Collins. Councillor Cook Woodman. Councillor Dance. Councillor Hugh Davies. Councillor Tom Deakin. Councillor Denton. Councillor Dingwall.
He's not here.
Councillor Duddridge. Councillor Fabahi. Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Ellis. Councillor Govier. Councillor Grimes. Councillor Hadley. Councillor Pauline Ham. Councillor Philip Ham. Councillor Susanna Hart. Councillor Benty Height. Councillor Alistair Hendry.
Abstain.
Councillor Ross Henley. Councillor Mike Hewitson. Councillor Hobbs. Councillor Hobhouse. Councillor Hunt. Councillor Dawn Johnson. Councillor Helen Kay. Councillor Andy Kendall. Councillor Kenton. Councillor Curley. Councillor Kravis. Councillor Leyshon. Councillor Locke. Councillor Lovell. Councillor Mansell. Councillor Matthew Martin. Councillor Kevin Messenger. Councillor Harry Munt. Councillor Tessa Munt. Councillor Mike Murphy. Councillor Nicholson. Councillor O'Donnell. Councillor Oakes. Councillor Sue Osborne. Councillor Page. Councillor Page. Councillor Patrick. Councillor Connor Payne. Councillor Kathy Pearce. Councillor Emily Pearlstone. Councillor Derek Perry. Councillor Evie Potts-Jones. Councillor Power. Councillor Hazel Pryor-Sankey. Councillor Stephen Pugsley. Councillor Wes Reid. Councillor Rob Reid. Councillor Bill Revens. Councillor Mike Rigby. Councillor Tony Robbins. Councillor Rodriguez. Councillor Roundell Green. Councillor Seeb. Councillor Shearer. Councillor Slocum. Councillor Smedley. Councillor Fran Smith. Councillor Smith-Roberts. Councillor Snell. Councillor Saunton. Councillor Mike Stanton. Councillor Andy Sully. Councillor Claire Sully. Councillor Lucy Trimnell. Councillor Sarah Wakefield. Councillor Martin Whale. Councillor Richard Wilkins. Councillor David Wone. Councillor Rosemary Woods.
Abstain.
Councillor Wren. And Councillor White.
It's carried, Chair.
Okay, the motion is carried. So we move on to motion 2, which is the planning service, and hand over to John Cook-Woodman for your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. It's vitally important that we have a really good planning service in Somerset, not only to support housing, but also to support economic development as well. But I understand at the moment we're in our 12-week recovery plan to try and catch up with the backlog. But it is important that we're transparent during this, and we've published things like the Service Recovery Plan, and in that we have targets and time frames as well. Now, the leader, I'm sure, will remember the heady days of Sedgemoor District Council's planning department, a first-class planning department, an award-winning planning department, and that's where we should be heading for. But of course, that was available under a Conservative administration. So hopefully that'll be the gold standard which we aim for. And so on that basis, I propose this motion.
Thank you. Right. Move on to speakers. Dave Mansell.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'm not the proposer, but I may have a little bit more to say. I do support the motion. I agree that we need a recovery plan for the planning service with timed targets. A good practice charter could help with how planning functions, including with agents contributing to good applications coming forward. Now, as the motion also requests, steps are needed to address planning enforcement too. I would like to highlight that in my experience, from what I've seen, I'm afraid this service also looks to have been, well, it has been, I'm afraid, it has been poor. And I'm afraid it is also looked to be poorly managed. And this applies for some time. And it does need to be addressed, and planning enforcement greatly needs to be improved in this council. I would also say that some of our procedures are not as efficient or sensible as they may be, and that too could help with planning working better and not running into some of the difficulties that it does. One I would highlight, which can cause a great deal of frustration, and I would say unfairness too, is the process for referring applications to committee. We've got a really cumbersome process now with nearly impossible working procedures, and time after time it just fails. We really could do better. I'm afraid planning really does need a lot of attention to improve, and I know the steps underway in process at the moment which should lead to improvements, but more is needed, as this motion indicates.
Okay, I should have said before I started, Diogo has chosen to go at the end. So there you go. Gwyl Wren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got not a lot to add to what Councillor Mansell has said. I think the one point of contact doesn't seem to work, and it seems to have operated in a way that cuts us off as councillors from what's going on, to the point that I was actually forced to send this one point of contact a complaint last week, and I haven't even had an acknowledgement of it. So I'm quite concerned that the procedures, as Councillor Mansell said, are not being adhered to. I also echo his concern about the enforcement. Anybody who goes to a parish council meeting will know that matters that don't get looked at or enforced against are the kind of things that really wind parishes and local residents up. And so I think and our enforcement service has for years been below par and has had to depend very heavily on agency staff who inherit a workload and then leave after 3 months and the whole thing goes over again. So there are a lot, and we talked before about the issues of retaining and recruiting and retaining staff, and we really do need, if we're going to have the fully functioning Gold Star planning service that the motion is aiming towards, then we do need to put the resources towards it. Thank you.
Thank you. Henry Hobhouse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Vice Chair of Climate and Place. We have asked for this to come to our scrutiny committee in the past. It was put elsewhere due to bad planning, and it needs to come to our scrutiny committee to be properly looked at and actually have members' input. And I invite you all to attend when we can get it on the agenda. Thank you.
Tom Power.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am in support of this motion, but one thing I wanted to highlight, and I'm sure I'm not the only person in this room that's had this spoken about by their parish councils and also their residents as well. Myself and Councillor Triminall have noticed with two of our parish councils they've actually sent in complaints regarding this, that residents and nearby businesses are not being notified about planning applications that are in the vicinity of their area, and they feel that the residents are not being considered in part of this planning process. So hopefully going forward in this recovery plan, this will be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Theo Butt-Phillips.
Thank you very much, Chair. Listening to members' concerns, and particularly listening to the Vice Chair of the Climate and Place Committee, it seems to me fairly clear that the right approach to this motion is for it to be considered by the Climate and Place Scrutiny Committee. I therefore would like to propose that we refer this matter to the Climate and Place Scrutiny Committee.
Does that find a second? So does that find a second for the... Okay. I believe that then goes back to the proposer, which is John, to... Oh, sorry, Diogo, I forgot you. Sorry, my apologies.
Councillor Rodriguez, not Theo, but no, it's not a problem with that. Chairman, just before I second, just a point of order. Can you explain the process that Theo has just asked for, and where in the Constitution I can read that this is permissible, please?
I'll let Scott go through the principle of what's gone on.
Thank you, Chair. And again, just for the benefit of members, there are actually two provisions within Part C of the Council's Constitution. The first one relates to the paragraph at 3.40, which are known as motions without notice, which can be raised during the meeting. One of those is the fourth bullet point, which is to refer a matter to an appropriate body or individual. In this case, this would be a scrutiny committee of the Council. The other one also does actually relate to amendment to motions, which is paragraph 3.50, which is also to refer the matter to an appropriate body. So there are double provisions within the Constitution. Effectively, though, in terms of, just to be clear, in terms of decision making, I believe what is being proposed is that the motion is referred to the scrutiny committee. The scrutiny committee would then need to clearly debate and consider that, but that should then come back to the next council meeting for this council then to have the benefit of any additional views and recommendations which that scrutiny committee has. That's the effect of that motion without notice. Clearly, like any motion, when both proposed and seconded and debated upon, then clearly that then goes to the vote of this council to determine whether, and should that vote have a majority, that effectively becomes the action, as in the substantive motion.
John.
Yeah, I was just going to ask the question. So basically, any motion that we bring forward as an opposition group will just be battered away to the nearest scrutiny committee and dusted under the carpet. I don't see why you can't vote on this motion. I really don't.
Chair, if I may, in essence, a motion has been brought forward, and that is allowable in the Constitution prior to the vote on that amendment to the motion, and it's valid because, as Scott says, under 340, it can be referred to an appropriate body, in this case a scrutiny committee. However, before that vote takes place, it would be appropriate for the seconder to be allowed to speak prior to that vote being completed. But in effect, the fact that an alternative motion has been brought forward to refer this to an alternative body and that motion has been seconded, then that would be the matter that is voted on first. If that is voted upon and proceeds on that basis and is voted through, then it is referred to another body, and that effectively closes the debate on this matter, and it then is referred to committee to deal with it in that way. And as Scott has outlined, that would then mean that the scrutiny committee must meet, debate the substantive motion that has been put forward to this committee, so the one that's been put forward by Councillor Cook-Woodman and seconded by Councillor Rodriguez, and then ultimately being brought back for debate with the evidence and information following that discussion at scrutiny. So, to be clear, prior to the vote on that motion being taken, the seconder, Councillor Rodriguez, has the opportunity to speak.
Councillor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chair. So what it looks like here is this, and sadly this isn't how I wanted to second this motion, but far too often this council, led by the Liberal Democrats, have curtailed debate and proper scrutiny by cutting down the number of people who can ask questions at full council, by cutting down the how long members can speak and debate in motions. They too often shut people down and move questions to different committees to not be answered. And here they are doing it again, too afraid for the executive to what? Consider a recovery process for the planning, for our planning department. You want a committee who barely meets, who just recently cancelled their meeting to consider something. Goodness knows if it ever would be considered, because that committee may go on cancelling even further. It's a common theme that we see with this Liberal Democrat administration, and it is a shame. But, Mr. Chairman, the last words just on the motion itself is the spirit in which this is brought forward and has been brought forward is to work together for a recovery process for our planning service. We want to raise the issues.
You let him speak, please.
Raising the issues that concern us as councillors, residents and parish councils, because we know that a thriving planning service helps us create a thriving economy, and we want to work together to achieve that. But if you're going to defer this to a committee that hardly ever meets and occasionally cancels, then goodness knows if we'll ever see the light of day with this one. Thank you, Chairman.
If this is going to be deferred to a scrutiny committee, I mean, I did say brushed under the carpet, and I will explain that. This is a 12-week recovery plan. Is there a scrutiny meeting to go to before that 12-week? Come on.
Chair, for clarity, it's been referred to scrutiny as a result of the alternative motion that's been presented. That when that will meet and the timing of that, unfortunately, I don't have at my fingertips, but that is the motion that's been put forward. It will then need to consider whether a special meeting needs to be called to consider the motion and bring that back to the next council meeting.
Maybe if I bring the leader in, he can clarify that.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, colleagues, for contributions. We recognise that there are issues with there has been response to those issues, but I do take exception to being told by someone who's allowed 15 minutes to speak, who I have never denied the opportunity to speak, and I've never denied any councillor, or on one occasion we ran out of time, but I've never denied any councillor the opportunity to speak at executive, that people cannot raise issues with this council. We do recognise that our meetings ran to a considerable degree beyond the time limit, the timings which are safe and reasonable. And so we have brought in measures to allow more councillors to participate and more councillors to ask questions directly to executives. So I believe that we've responded to those. But I'm so glad that Councillor Cook-Woodman's reminded me of our days in Sedgemoor, because I remember bringing forward a motion about our concerns with the planning service at Sedgemoor District Council. It was proposed by myself, it was seconded by Councillor Gary Wong, and it raised concerns that the planning department was not implementing sufficient community infrastructure for the area. And guess what happened? The leader, Councillor Duncan McGinty, got up, proposed that motion be referred to a scrutiny committee. If it was good enough for the Conservatives at Sedgemoor District Council, surely it's good enough now.
Anyway, can I, hang on, I just want to move this on because we could discuss this forever. I think it's been clearly outlined by the monitoring officers that we need to vote on what has been put forward, which is putting it to scrutiny, then bringing it back in December. So we need to put that to a vote. It has been proposed and seconded. Sorry, go on then, yeah.
I was just going to say, I fully understand, and it's great to see that Bill's starting to follow Conservative lead, which is great.
Right, falling on my vein, sorry Martin, I want to move this on because otherwise we're just... Go on then, which point of order are you raising?
Just the fact that we have, and we function, a strategic planning committee. Now this is a planning matter. Why can't this be passed to Tony's strategic planning committee to fully scrutinise and discuss, which strikes me as being the right place rather than some other scrutiny committee. And we do meet regularly, of course. Just a point which I don't think has been considered. Thank you.
Right. We have, obviously, Theobald Phillips has put forward a motion to refer it to the scrutiny committee he named, and that's been seconded. So we need to vote on that to bring this forward. So please, can I have a show of hands, all those in favour of that motion? Okay, those against? And those abstentions? Sorry. Go on, Diego, what were you going to say? Sorry. Oh, you forgot to vote against. Okay, right. Any abstentions? Okay, that is carried. Now, that becomes the substantive now? That now becomes the substantive because we have to vote on it again. So I need to show of hands again to adopt this.
Was that an amendment then, if it comes to substantive?
No, we don't have to.
That's why voted on the motion. Now you just need to vote to refer it. Vote to refer it. Motion to refer.
Right, we need to vote again for a motion to defer.
Motion to refer. Chair, can I be absolutely clear? We now need a vote, because of the way the manner in which this has been brought forward, we now need to vote to refer this matter to scrutiny, because that is the substantive motion that is now in front of you. Yeah. So, members will need to vote on that matter.
Point of order, Chair.
Does that qualify as an amendment then to that motion? Because it is completely different to the motion.
What we're voting on is defer it to bring it back. It doesn't detract from what the original motion was. It's bringing it to another committee to get more information to bring it back, if you're right. Okay? One more, Diego, then we'll move on.
Chair, just to get complete clarity. So there's a vote been taken on a motion without notice, 3.4 of the Constitution, to refer something to an appropriate body or individual. Where in the Constitution does it now say that another vote needs to be taken on the original motion? Can you point me into the part of the Constitution where it explains that, just for complete clarity for the entire room? Or has that now been the vote on the motion?
But there's not an amendment.
Yes, we only need the one vote, which we had, so that is now done. Okay. We've done. Move on. Okay. Right. Moving on from that, we dealt with item 12 before the break. Item 13, which is a summary of decisions to the last council meeting. Bill.
Just to formally table this and happy to take any questions.
Any questions? No? So we now move on to questions of the executive. The first is Habib. Habib?
I'm sorry, I'm just getting myself organised. Just turn my computer off, that's all. Is this the question for the council? No, I've got it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Given the recent attack on the mosque in Taunton, the Portuguese church in Bridgewater, and protest outside asylum seekers' accommodation, many residents are understandably concerned about the safety and community harmony. May I ask what steps Somerset Council and its partners are taking in collaboration with the police and other agencies to prevent any further escalation of tensions, reassure residents, particularly those from ethnic minority and faith communities, that they are valued equal citizens of this country, and strengthen our commitment to community cohesion and inclusion during these troubling times. Clear and visible leadership is vital in ensuring that all communities across Somerset feel safe, respected and protected. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Bill.
Thank you, Councillor Farberhey, for the question and for the opportunity to address the current situation. Somerset's motto is Somerset Ayler, all the people of Somerset. Over the last century or so, we welcomed into Somerset in 1914 Belgian refugees, in the 1930s Spaniards and people of Jewish heritage. The Ugandan Asians were welcomed here at Doniford Camp near Watchet in the 70s, and we now welcome people from Afghanistan and Ukraine, as well as many other places that are suffering war and strife. They and descendants have contributed and are contributing hugely to our communities. Note particularly Highbridge's Frank Foley, who saved tens of thousands of Jewish lives by bending the rules in his position as a passport officer in the British Embassy. I grew up in the small Somerset village of Goathurst, where there were Italian and German POWs, prisoners of war, in the Haswell House camp. And many stayed in Somerset after World War II and to make new lives here, many of them in agriculture. From bitter enemies, they became colleagues, they became neighbours, friends and families. Soldiers from here in Somerset, sailors, airmen, in both World Wars fought alongside forces from the Empire, including the Indian subcontinent, the African colonies, as well as Australia, Canada and New Zealand. Today in Somerset, we welcome the 96 different nationalities that work in Somerset NHS. And that, if we extend that to social care, that probably extends further. African American segregated regiments built Musgrove Park Hospital in the 1940s. Just as today, workers from all over the world are coming here to build essential national infrastructure at Hinkley Point C. On behalf of Somerset Council and our residents, I strongly condemn the worrying incidents you have referenced. Hate has no home in Somerset, and criminal acts like these aimed to intimidate others must not and will not be tolerated. We must stand together to oppose the small minority who seek to intimidate or divide us. In recent weeks, we've seen an increase in flags being flown across the country, including here in Somerset. National symbols do hold significant meaning for many, and it's natural to take pride in them, particularly at times of national celebration. Yet it's crucial to ensure that these are not used to foster belonging and not division. We understand some residents may wish to show a feeling of national pride, and they're welcome to do so on their own property, just as we as a council take pride in flying different flags on many different occasions: the Union flag, the St George's flag, the Somerset flag, and many other flags which fly in support of Somerset Council services and the remarkable diversity woven into the fabric of our communities. Somerset remains a welcome and vibrant place. It is our collective responsibility to maintain and nurture that spirit. We remain committed to working with our partners to reduce the current tensions that some communities are experiencing. We are working closely with the police to identify where tensions are rising and what steps we can take together to minimise these. Yesterday, a joint statement was issued by all council leaders, along with the Police and Crime Commissioner, cross-party, in order to condemn the rise in tensions that we are seeing. Understanding is vital to make sure we can appreciate one another and the contributions we all bring. We will continue to challenge misinformation around asylum and immigration and increase understanding of the positive benefits of different communities in Somerset. I've met with Churches Together Somerset and representatives of other faiths to ensure them of our support and urge them to work together with us. I'm also keen that we note the increased tensions in one section of our community will also likely increase the tension in other communities. When we recently spoke with our Communities Forum, which represents equality groups in Somerset, which was set up following the riots last summer, it was clear that these groups were being made to feel more vulnerable. This can be an unintended consequence of how we choose to voice our views and opinions. As a council, we reaffirm our commitment to fostering an environment in Somerset in which all individuals feel valued and included, and all the work that this entails. Our diversity is one of our greatest strengths. By recognising and embracing our differences, we lay the foundation for stronger, more resilient communities, ensuring Somerset remains a place where everyone belongs. Finally, as leader of the council, I want to thank all our staff for their hard work and dedication, and tell them they are all welcome in this organisation and in our communities. And I also want to confirm the welcome Somerset has to all those that require a safe harbour, a place to call home, a place to thrive. We all contribute to making Somerset an amazing county to live, work and visit. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Barry Clark on planning services.
Thank you, Chairman. This is quoted from a letter received from a senior planner. I recognise that some aspects of the service provided to our customers can be improved, and we have been reviewing and redesigning aspects of service delivery so that the service is more customer focused. It was regrettable that resources did not permit the work to be carried out. I fully understand why you've been left so frustrated by the service received, but I can assure you that we're taking the necessary steps to improve the services it provides to customers submitting planning applications. Now, this seems to me to adequately describe today's position. In fact, it was written in 2011 by the head of planning at Mendip Council after an application had to be referred to the Planning Inspectorate for non-determination. Following that, the head of planning and the executive director should now consider their failures in recognising the planning position in time to have prevented it and done something about it. Why, after all the collected experience of planning that is in the summer that must be available to these people, my questions are, firstly, how can an area's and Somerset's performance be so heavily dependent on IT systems not being the same throughout the organisation, when it must be the exception, for an example, that an application in Somerset East is influenced by South, West or North's IT systems? They don't need to cross boundaries to be determined, I would have thought. Second question, why did Somerset Council need to engage an outside consultancy to advise on corrective measures which have only made life worse for residents making applications? And the last question, can we now be assured, now that we are nearly 2/3 of the way through the moratorium, in 3 days' time we will be 3 days through, 2/3 of the way through, the moratorium on old applications, that the corrective measures are working and indeed life will return to normal on the 28th of October? Thank you, Chairman.
Mike Rigby.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Clark, for your questions. As you're aware, the planning service is currently operating on a number of different IT systems. Since the birth of Somerset Council, we've striven to standardise the outputs from the separate systems so that we can align the external view of the council and the customer experience, so that we can make most efficient use of the resources, both for case officers and for the technical teams. The service is seeking to provide a high-quality, customer-orientated service, but while operating on different systems, it makes moving resources within the various teams very difficult. The consultancy Mondrum were hired in order to enable us to extract consistent information from across all of the teams so that we could better understand where the barriers to delivering the service were occurring. The service inherited a backlog of applications at vesting day, and the introduction of the prioritising decisions period is specifically seeking to reduce the work in progress back to a level where a high quality service is achievable. The number of applications at the beginning of the year was around 1,900. At the beginning of the prioritising decisions period, it was about 1,650, and that's now, as a result of the PDP, is down to 1,431. We'll be reviewing the position at the end of the PDP period, and we'll advise on the arrangements going forwards. As I've said before, I think it's fair to say that some of the measures that we've taken will remain. Some of them I'd like to see end as soon as possible. For example, being able to provide more in the way of updates to applicants. I'd like to be able to go back to that, but for now we need to do what we're doing. But some of the things that we're doing, I think, are sensible responses to the amount of work that the teams have, and I suspect that they will remain. Comments on all of the applications are being taken into account, and all of the member inquiries are being directed to a central point, but they will still eventually receive responses. And it's worth just mentioning as well that there's no moratorium on older applications. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Diego, yours.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is around the ever more delayed Celebration Mile roadworks in Bridgewater. It's been blighted by delay after delay, and it's had a damaging impact on footfall in Bridgewater and on traders. I believe that the first quarter of this year compared to the first quarter of last year, the footfall numbers that the Town Council had showed an 80,000 decrease in footfall in the town. Now, the issues around Celebration Miles, the delays, my concerns about the impact on local traders is something I've raised a number of times, either in executive or at council, directly to Councillor Wilkins. And I think it's fair to say that traders in Bridgewater, impacted by Celebration Mile, by the works on Eastover, on Angel Crescent and Clare Street, feel like they are being failed by this council as a result of the ongoing delays. And I feel that there has been a failure to take the issue as serious as many traders feel. It wasn't so long ago where I raised this issue with Councillor Wilkins in a meeting, and he said that there were businesses desperate to come into Eastover when the work's complete. But we understand that Domino's has just moved over out of Eastover into Northgate Yard, apparently a good deal they had with this council. So we need to know, when are the roadworks finally going to come to an end? And it would be quite nice, actually. I saw a video of Councillor Wilkins on the junction after they finished the works in Wellington. Perhaps a nice video of Councillor Wilkins promoting the end of the roadworks on Celebration Mile, considering that the party that was planned for the 4th of October on Eastover to celebrate the end of those works have been cancelled because of the ongoing delays, and they'll happen next spring instead. It's been an absolute shambles. Traders need to know when, finally, is this coming to an end. Thank you.
Richard.
It's me.
It's you.
Yeah. Richard's filled in for me on a couple of occasions, but it
Okay.
falls within my
Mike,
portfolio,
then.
so it'll be me that you'll have to see the video of. I'm sorry about that. Our contractor has told us that the work is set to complete on Eastover by early October and mid-October for the rest of the scheme, but this is dependent on weather and other external factors. I've expressed my disappointment at how the contractor has delivered this scheme, particularly in Eastover, where the completion date has been pushed back several times. We understand that there will be challenges with a job of this scale, but there doesn't appear to have been sufficient contingency planning around these in terms of increasing the pace of work, and at the same time, both the council and public have been informed too late of delays, road closures and programme changes. When you compare this with other recently completed council infrastructure projects, the performance here is simply not good enough. We're extremely sorry for the delays and disruption caused to traders and local people, and we're having discussions with the contractor about our dissatisfaction with the way that this has been handled.
Thank you. Right, we should have Dawn Denton online. You have a question, Dawn?
Yes, thank you very much. It has been noted by the public and the media that there has been a significant and rising use of consultants and agency staff since this administration took control of Somerset Council in May 2022. While some contracts are small in scale and may be agreed for an extended period of time, added together they represent millions of pounds of public money. In the interests of openness, fairness and accountability and transparency, can the lead member provide a full breakdown of all consultant and agency staff expenditure approved and incurred since May 2022, including the total spend by financial year, the purpose of the engagement, the department responsible, and whether the engagement was short-term, ongoing, or extended. And can we ask that this information be made available to all councillors and the public in a transparent and accessible format, please? Thank you.
Theo.
Thank you for raising this important issue, Councillor Denton. As you know, a key line of inquiry within the workforce element of the transformation programme, as set out in the draft business case taken to executive in February 2024, was a reduction in our pay bill. Whilst over 33 million has been saved through council restructure, with compulsory redundancies minimised as far as possible through voluntary redundancy and vacancy management, a reduction in agency spend and the reliance on locums and consultants has also been a key area of inquiry throughout. Because of the necessity to minimise compulsory redundancies, there will have been a greater reliance on agency staff in 2024-5 than would normally be the case, as the number of new permanent staff recruited will have been reduced in some areas pending the results of the restructure. Agency spend remains higher than we would like this year due to current challenges we are experiencing with recruitment and retention and the remaining number of vacancies that exist post-restructure. Managers are actively recruiting to vacant posts and converting agency to permanent where this is practical. New workforce KPIs, including agency expenditure, will be included in the next quarter's corporate performances report, as proposed in the new draft people strategy, which is due to be considered by HR committee in October. A more detailed answer will be provided to you in writing and in as transparent and accessible a format as possible. However, given the level of detail requested, it is not possible to do so in full council today.
Thank you. Peter Clayton.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm not sure how this is going to go down well with Bill, but I'm going to go ahead with it anyway. It's to do with travellers. I trust you're aware that this year Burnham has experienced an excessive number of travellers, with some establishing residence for 3 weeks on the South Esplanade lawn starting from June the 11th. A recent police report said there was 10 encampments over the summer months this year. The travellers set up generators, tables and chairs widely dispersed, with laundry hanging and litter scattered all around, and a large fire was ignited to burn plastic off cables. This isn't hearsay, I witnessed it myself. They removed their number plates, and then on June the 26th, 13 vehicles occupied the Pearse Street car park, taking over the entire east side along with designated coach parking area. That is very significant because that affects our livelihoods. This invasion resulted in a loss of income from parking fees to Somerset, as well as a decrease in coach visitors to our town. Many of these vans were in the same ones that have been on the South Esplanade, merely relocating 500 yards down the road. Visitors arriving at the car park confronted with the mess and the number of travellers likely left, which adversely impacts economy through reduced income for local businesses. This is not a welcoming sight for visitors or for residents looking to park. Further incursions occurred throughout the summer season, and they only departed just 2 weeks ago. The recent visits must have caused a significant financial loss. I've learnt that in certain areas of the UK, local authorities have implemented blanket injunctions on sites owned by them, which have led to a dramatic increase in incursions. I'm also aware that previous government enacted a law allowing the police to take action to remove individuals residing on private or public land without permission, especially when significant disruption, distress or harm is inflicted on the community, the law-abiding majority. Whenever these unwanted intrusions happen, we consistently hear that the council is taking the necessary steps to remove the intruders. However, it appears that the enforcement of these actions varies in duration, and in Burnham-on-Sea, the negative impacts have extended beyond the mere presence of the vehicles to include the disruptive behaviour observed in the town. I have personally been faced with threats of violence and have witnessed thefts occurring in shops. Many of these incidents were unreported because there has been a lack of action in the past to support our local traders. Therefore, my question is 5A, B, C, D and E. I'm sure you don't want me to read them out.
Thank you. Fed.
Thank you, Chair. This actually builds on the question that a colleague of yours asked Peter at Executive, where I explained that the same legal processes have to be followed by councils throughout the UK. I can appreciate that there have been challenges in Burnham, and that has had an impact on the shops and community that have been affected by incursions that have been taking place. In relation to some of your particular questions, but you will get a full written response, the manager of our environmental crime team they actually came to Burnham Town Council and met with councillors then, is working to improve further understanding of the legal process to support discussions with the Ministry of Justice and Her Majesty's Courts and Tribunal Services. The goal is to address delays that we as a council face when we look to put court applications in for the eviction of the illegal incursions, because a lot of the time we are reliant on the courts on giving us a date, and that can vary as to when those dates are available. A proposed solution is to implement a booking system similar to that used in the county courts, where councils are assigned a specific date and a time for hearings. The solution is not something that Somerset Council can control, but we are part of discussions. Regarding injunctions against persons unknown to prevent unauthorised encampments, the 2023 Supreme Court ruling found blanket injunctions unlawful. Courts should only grant them when civil rights or public law cannot be protected by other means. Somerset Council cannot currently prove that an injunction is the only viable option, making it legally indefensible and risky. The Council is looking to identify land for temporary transit and permanent sites which may support future isolated injunctions. The enforcement team has protocols in place with Avon and Somerset Police for health and safety, support during trespass enforcement and for police-led action outside working hours at high-risk sites. The Council must also meet its legal duty to assess and respond to welfare checks. Enforcement staff follow national procedures, but court-driven timelines often clash with public expectations, leading to criticism over the response and speed. What I would say when it comes to those businesses that have been affected, please report everything. When we have incursions in Taunton, I have regular meetings with the PCSOs. Their advice is to continue to report. That data is driven and it guides the police on what they can do, but I'll get a full written response to you.
Thank you. Susanna Hart.
Thank you. As there are still many unpaid tradesmen in Glastonbury owe significant sums of money for work undertaken on the Life Factory project as a part of the town deal, I would like to ask, please, whether any further payments have been made by Somerset Council to either the Red Brick Building Centre Limited or its subsidiary Beckery Construction Limited. We're all aware that the audit is still ongoing and that despite repeated requests, no specific end date has been given. To be frank, it seems unlikely that these tradesmen will ever be paid. Indeed, it is highly likely that sooner or later some or all of the creditors will choose to sue. According to the Town Deal website, the lead organisation for Glastonbury Food and Regenerative Farming Centre, a separate Town Deal project from the Life Factory, is also led by the Red Brick Building Centre. Can you tell us, please, whether this means that the land purchased for the farming project is currently an asset of the Red Brick Building and, as such, at risk in the event of the Red Brick Building Centre Limited or its subsidiary Beckery Construction Company Limited being sued by its creditors?
Mike Rigby.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the question, Councillor Hart. No further Town Deal Fund grant payments have been made by Somerset Council to either the Red Brick Building Centre Limited or to its subsidiary Beckery Construction Company Limited. However, earlier this financial year, Somerset Council awarded a one-off finance support grant of £20,812 to the Red Brick Building Centre Limited, only to be used for the closure of their accounts. This was not Town Deal funding, it was council revenue funding. With the publication of the SWAP audit report in May 2025 and the lessons learned report expected to be published in October 2025, the audit work is drawing to a close There will be a report to Executive in November about the Council's position, but it is likely this report will be confidential. The Food and Regenerative Farming Centre is a separate project in the Glastonbury Town deal, and it has its own bank account. The grant recipient for the Farming Centre project is the Red Brick Building Centre Limited. The land purchased for the Farming Centre project is an asset of the Red Brick Building Centre Limited. The usage of the Town Deal Fund monies that finance the land acquisition are restricted by a funding agreement, and as a condition of this agreement, Somerset Council holds a charge over this land which is registered at the Land Registry. I accept that that probably doesn't answer everything that Councillor Hart has asked me today, but I'm more than happy to have a briefing with her to try and provide whatever further information that she might require. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be great to set up a meeting, and also would that answer come to me in writing as well, because it was quite extensive. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Are there now any urgent questions that cannot be taken? Also, I need to just let you know that we've just seen a news flash that the traffic is at a complete standstill between 23 and 24 on the M5 because of a fire on the... So, but, okay. We also, I need to vote for a 30-minute extension on this meeting to be able to continue. Sorry? Look, we need to vote on it, so can we have a vote to continue? Put your hands up, please. Okay, that's fine. Right, if you'd like to put your question. Yes.
Is it me? Is it me?
Well,
it's sort of, you can ask questions without notice.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm not really sure who this question I should put to. It's more of a general executive question. Crime in child is rising. Domestic violence, antisocial behaviour and fear are becoming the norm, unfortunately. My inbox is overflowing, and the Labour Police and Crime Commissioner Claire Moody is nowhere to be found on issues relating to child crime. She hides in Bristol and has left our council to fend for itself. Residents are told to report crime, but what good is that when the PCC treats Somerset like a forgotten outpost? Mark Shelford, our previous PCC, delivered in Chard and across Avon and especially Somerset. Labour promised us safer streets. Instead, they've abandoned Somerset's. What are we going to do as a unitary authority, as councillors, to protect high deprivation communities like Chard when, like now, our PCC won't show up?
Heather.
I'm sure the leader would like to say something as well, but I just wanted to come in just briefly on that one, simply because your colleague next to you, Martin and Brian, who's no longer with us, I'm afraid, and Nick, who might be with us, we all sit on the Police and Crime panel. And the very question you've asked, and I chair the panel, we had a meeting this week, and we were very vociferous in our asking for assurance from the Commissioner that all of the examples that she very often leans on around activity is very often Bristol-centric, and yet that whole idea about looking after Somerset, which is, of course, has a greater population than Bristol and a greater footprint than Bristol, just needs to be part of all of the rural areas need to be considered. So I just wanted to let you know that one thing that some of your colleagues and myself and others have been making the point. I'm not necessarily agreeing with you that she's nowhere to be seen, but certainly we have that benefit of being able to talk to her and really hold her to account for her police and crime plan and the implementation of that. And please be assured that we, wherever we can, jump up and down for rural issues, not just rural crimes as in hair coursing, agricultural theft, which is of course a big issue and I'm not decrying it, but also that thing of crimes which happen to happen in rural areas. And we make that point very vociferously whenever we can. If I could just share that.
Fed, did you want to add?
Heather's actually come in as chair. So.
Okay. Susanna.
Thank you. I mean, this is just a very quick question. I believe that all of us, when standing to represent our communities, do so fully cognizant that there will be occasions in the political forum where we will not all necessarily agree. And that is fine. However, What is not fine is for people to make unfounded allegations of an inflammatory nature, and this is particularly the case where such allegations make reference to racism. This has happened today, and sadly not for the first but for the second time in recent memory. I do not believe that anyone in this room wishes to undertake their obligations to their communities in such an environment. As a council, we must stand together and demand a certain level of civilised interaction. Let me be clear. Making unfounded accusations of racism is an outright attempt to intimidate and to close down reasonable discussion and debate. It could even be considered bullying in itself. Last time this happened, our motion was alleged to be racist. The monitoring officer later determined that the motion absolutely was not racist. Too late, however, as the false allegations had already been picked up by the press. This behaviour, therefore, is not only inflammatory but also dangerous. So can I ask, please, is it possible for members to be mindful of treating one another with decency and respect in order to facilitate open and reasonable debate?
All I've got to say is I know that we have a members' code of conduct, so that is the guideline, but I don't know if anybody else wants to make any comment. Bill?
If there are any specific allegations that you would like to be followed up, we can always look at those either informally or formally through the standards board process.
I don't think it needs to go through a formal process. I think we all know the two incidents I'm referring to, and all I'm asking is that people are mindful. Do you need me to explain them to you?
No, I don't think you do. No.
Yeah,
I'm happy to spell them out. I don't mind. I'm not shouting. I'm happy to spell them out. I'm speaking clearly because actually this is really important. There's nothing funny about it, and it isn't okay. It's happened twice in this room, and I don't want it to happen again. And if anybody thinks it's okay, or anybody's not sure what I'm talking about, please take this opportunity to say so. But Bill, you look really surprised, like you don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm talking about today, Councillor Payne. I don't even remember exactly what he said, but he was accused of racism, completely unfounded. And the last time it happened...
Hang on. Can I shut this down? There is a formal complaints procedure through the monitoring officer if you want to put a complaint against a councillor. So
I'm not making a complaint about a councillor. I wouldn't.
Well, you seem to be heading in that direction, so I would head you in the direction of the monitoring officer if you wish to make a complaint.
Okay, fine. Have it your way.
Thank you. Fed, did you want to say something? Or
I was only going to say maybe we do some equalities training and perhaps ask Tom Rutland to run another panel of equalities training for all councillors so that we understand what that means when it comes to all different aspects of equality, all different aspects of awareness, and ensuring that when we choose certain language as to how close to the line that can be.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions? If not, I will bring this meeting to a close, and I'll wish you all the best battling the M5.